Chapter 1787. The Tower Master wasn't the only one who noticed the heavenly retribution. On the contrary, such a huge commotion was felt by all the true sovereigns in this world. The Central Wasteland region had to abide by the agreement with the Great Qin. Emperor Realm cultivators couldn't cross borders. Therefore, they had been extinct in the Central Wasteland, except under special circumstances. But the agreement didn't apply to the true emperors from the Central Wasteland. Even the Great Qin Empire had to acquiesce. They had the right to descend anywhere with a single thought. This was the status and respect that true emperors deserved. Even the Great Qin had to show them respect. The heavenly retribution's aura was especially eye-catching to the true emperors. Moreover, everyone knew that there was someone who would be punished by the heavenly retribution. Heaven-splitting sword sect, Qinyu, the only Emperor Realm sword cultivator in the world. He had killed a clan leader and destroyed that clan. There were even rumors that the reason Qinyu was punished by the heavenly retribution was related to the secret of immortality. This was enough to stir one's heart. Whoosh, whoosh. The space flickered and one figure after another appeared out of thin air. But this time, the true emperors had chosen to descend with their projections instead of their real bodies. The reason was simple. No one wanted to get into trouble. The heavenly retribution, even a true emperor would be in trouble if they were offended. Projections were safer. Even if there was a problem, they could just disperse and lose some cultivation. It wasn't serious. Of course, there was another reason. No one dared to make the first move in the current situation. This was also the reason why, after the true emperors descended, they remained silent and only watched from afar. They did not get close at all. This time, it was different from when Qinyu was possessed. The heavenly retribution was coming. Qinyu was dead. It wasn't too late to do anything after his death. Why risk going against the heavenly retribution? Niu Dingtian was among them. He was also a projection. He looked up at the sky that was as red as a sea of blood. His heart was heavy. He had thought that Qinyu would find a way to get out of danger after he left. It seemed that he had thought too much. After all, he was possessed. Today, Qinyu wouldn't be able to escape. The imperial tutor had his hands behind his back. His eyes were filled with hesitation. He didn't know how to make a decision. Of course, his hesitation wasn't related to Qinyu's safety. It was something that would happen after he was punished by the heavenly retribution and died. Should he take the risk? Long-lived species, eternal realm. It was so close that it seemed to be just one step away. However, this small gap was sometimes a natural chasm that blocked countless people outside, making it impossible for them to take that step. An undying being. They might seem powerful, but they could also live forever, becoming existences that coexisted with the world. However, this kind of coexistence only allowed them to live. They would never have the chance to break through the bottleneck and transform into a long-lived species. He took a deep breath and slowly exhaled. Nation Master's eyes returned to calmness. He decided to wait and see the situation clearly before deciding whether or not to make a move. Today, the world's true emperors were almost all gathered. Once they truly erupted, the struggle over the long life type's ruined body would inevitably lead to a great battle. However, the imperial tutor was not afraid. Of course, his own strength was one thing, but more importantly, His Majesty was watching. It had been many years since His Majesty had made a move, but the Imperial Advisor had never doubted his strength. The Nation Master even guessed that His Majesty already had the strength comparable to a long-lived species. After all, the Joss flame power gathered in the Great Qin Empire could allow His Majesty to possess the power of the Eternal Realm before reaching the Eternal Realm. While Niu Dingtian and the Imperial Advisor were thinking, the others did not stop thinking. The air was still quiet. No one spoke, but undercurrents were already surging. The true emperors all had their own thoughts. However, there was one thing that they all agreed on. Qinyu was finished. Bai Feifei also felt that Qinyu was finished. Because even though she had risked using the Mountain River sword, it was still very difficult to completely refine the great Tao of the Dongting Lord. And Qinyu was running out of time. Enter the demons were fine. Their will was strong enough. No matter how the demonic thoughts attacked their minds, they could still hold on. But the heavenly retribution was really coming. Bai Fei could already smell the familiar blood and brutality. It was the will of the world, and it had an attribute that could not be resisted. Otherwise, there would be no way to suppress the long-lived species. Of course, Bai Fei did not have the confidence to resist the heavenly retribution. Otherwise, she would not have ended up like this. Back when she was unharmed, this was the outcome, let alone today. But she had no choice. She could only brace herself and hold on for as long as she could. Chinyu, faster, faster. Otherwise, we are really finished. Across from her, Chinyu sat cross-legged. The surface of his body was like the bottom of a dried-up river, with countless fine cracks. Traces of blood seeped out, soaking his robe. This was because refining the great Tao with all his strength had exceeded the limits of his body. He had done his best. In his soul space, the sun and moon vortexes roared and revolved. The mountain river soared, slashed out. Rumble. An earth-shattering sound echoed in all directions. Chinyu could feel the pressure from the outside. The aura of the heavenly retribution was like a sword hanging above his head. It would slash down at any moment. Hurry, hurry, hurry. Chinyu fiercely opened his eyes, a blood-red color boiling within them. Roar! A red shadow appeared behind him. It roared and bared its fangs and claws, staring at Chinyu with greed in its eyes. This was a demonic thought. It could not wait to devour Chinyu's consciousness and control his soul. Rumble. Above the Black Sea, in the blood-red sky, thunder suddenly sounded. Swish! All the true emperors looked up at the same time. Even if it was just a projection, one could clearly feel the seriousness in their hearts. The heavenly retribution had arrived. Crack! Just as this thought crossed the minds of the true emperors, a crimson bolt of lightning fell from the clouds. Wherever it passed, the space shattered and turned pitch black. Below, the black water of the Black Sea evaporated and disappeared before it could even touch the blood-red lightning. It was as if someone had touched off a part of the sea with a finger, revealing an empty area that ran through the sea. It went straight to the bottom. A faint golden layer appeared in Bai Fei's eyes. Her entire body instantly became illusory. She raised her hand and was about to punch. But at this moment, a sigh suddenly sounded in her ear. It was lazy and tired, but also full of resentment. Chinyu, you little bastard. Provoking you is really my worst decision. I can't even sleep well. Bai Fei's body suddenly stiffened. At this moment, she felt that she had been completely seen through by a gaze. From inside to outside, there was no longer any secret. Her entire being was exposed. SK, you're quite fair, and you really haven't been eaten by a man before. A chuckle suddenly sounded in her ear. Bai Fei could even feel the warm breath on her neck. This made her even more frightened, so much so that her entire body was like a block of wood, completely frozen on the spot. Who? Who is it? Bai Fei realized that she could not sense anything before the other party spoke. The more she thought about it, the more terrified she felt. Her face turned pale. Little girl, don't be afraid. I have no time to trouble you. The heavenly retribution, Chinyu, is really as good as always stirring up trouble. In the future, stay by my side and help me keep an eye on him. Don't stir up trouble so easily. The blood-red lightning arrived. Like a long spear, it instantly pierced through space and pierced into the bottom of the Black Sea. But at this moment, a shocking scene appeared before their eyes. They saw that as that terrifying blood-red thunder approached Chinyu, it shattered and disintegrated without warning. The blood-red fragments were like some kind of ice crystal, as if some kind of power had frozen, suppressed, and shattered at the moment the heavenly retribution arrived. Then it disappeared. That's right, it completely disappeared, as if the previous scene was just an illusion. The heavenly retribution had never appeared before, but Bai Fei knew very well that this was not an illusion. The heavenly retribution had arrived, blasting towards Chinyu. But before the blood-red lightning could erupt with even the slightest bit of power, it was killed. And the one who had killed was without a doubt the owner of the voice just now. Bai Feifei felt like she was going crazy. Qinyu, just how many cards did he have left? And why were each of these cards more terrifying than the last? There was no need to talk about the fragments of the blazing sun. She had only sensed them from afar, and her mind had already trembled. She did not dare to have any thoughts of resisting. But now, the owner of the voice gave Bai Feifei a feeling that was even more terrifying. Just now, when the other party had breathed into her ear, she even had a peerlessly horrifying feeling. That was, the other party only needed to blow, and she would be consigned to eternal damnation. It's done. Just a small matter, and you want to ruin my good dreams. You really deserve a beating. There was a slap, as if someone had slapped Qinyu on the head. Little girl, don't forget what I just reminded you. Look after him in the future. I'm tired, so I'm leaving first. Swish. The terrifying, oppressive aura instantly disappeared. Puff, puff. Bai Feifei gasped for breath, her pores open and cold sweat dripping down her back. She looked up, looking at the passage that pierced through the sea. With a loud roar, it instantly disappeared, and with it, the crimson clouds above the black sea that looked like a pool of blood also disappeared. The heavenly retribution was gone, or, to be more precise, it had been forcefully scattered by someone. Gulp. Bai Feifei swallowed and respectfully bowed. As you command. She did not know the other party's identity, but there was no doubt that he was a card in Qinyu's hand. A super trump card. Bai Feifei looked at Qinyu. At this time, she could not help but feel a bit of admiration. This fellow had hidden himself too deeply. And at this time, above the Black Sea, far away from the heavenly retribution, the true emperors waiting for an opportunity were also completely dumbfounded. That was it. Not only was the sound of the rain loud and the thunder small, but even after roaring hoarsely for a long time, in the end, not a single drop of rain fell. That blood-red thunderbolt had ferociously charged into the sea, with a ruthless attitude that could kill gods and Buddhas in its way. And this was the result? To say that it was a silver spear and a wax stick was an insult to wax sticks. There was an unfathomable silence. Cough. I still have matters to attend to. Goodbye. A true emperor projection turned and left, disappearing directly. Let's go together. Another true emperor disappeared. This is the heavenly retribution. With a sigh, another two true emperors left. No one was stupid. Through the appearance, they could see that Qinyu of the heaven-splitting swordsmanship sect was not to be trifled with. No matter how he did it, not even the heavenly retribution could kill him. In fact, it could even be said that he was directly killed. If it were them, would they have ended up well? Stop messing around. Then why didn't they leave? If they stayed, they would be hated by others. Whoosh! Niuding Tian let out a long breath and laughed. It seems that today's trip is for nothing. Sect Master Qin really likes to torment people. He turned and directly left. The Imperial Scholar looked deeply at the place where the heavenly retribution blood thunder had descended. If he hadn't seen it with his own eyes, he absolutely would not have believed it. But without a doubt, this was the truth. With a deep breath, the Imperial Scholar turned and left. This Qinyu definitely had a secret on his body, and this secret made the Imperial Scholar feel threatened. Perhaps he could suggest to His Majesty to use thunderous methods to directly kill him. Otherwise, there might be changes. It had to be known that Qinyu did not have a good relationship with the Qin Empire. Underwater. Shua. Qinyu opened his eyes. A strange aura spread out from his body. The crimson color rapidly faded, leaving only a tiny bit hidden in the depths of his eyes. It was like in his black pupils, there was a faint circle of blood-red pupils. Chapter 1788. He broke through. Of course, they were not true sovereigns. Instead, they were half-sovereigns who had crossed the celestial realm and had yet to reach the 9 heavens. However, half-martial monarchs still had the protection of the Great Tao, temporarily suppressing the invasion of the demonic sense. With a silent roar, the The demonic phantom behind Qin Yu rapidly vanished from sight. But it did not disappear. Just like the faint circle of blood in Qin Yu's eyes, it remained in his body. Bai Fei, take a good look at my current state. He waited for a while, but there was no response. Qin Yu frowned. Raising his head, he realized that Bai Fei was in a daze. Bai Fei, what did you say? She finally regained her senses. Qin Yu looked at her. What happened? There was clearly something wrong with this woman. Bai Fei's lips twitched. Don't you know what's going on? She looked at Qin Yu, hesitated for a moment, and then said, My lord, heavenly retribution descended just now, but someone helped you break it. Who? I didn't see her. I only heard her voice, and then the sky execution disappeared. Bai Fei swore. She was still feeling a little dizzy as she spoke. Heavenly punishment. That was heavenly punishment. In this world, no one knew better than her how terrifying the heavenly retribution was. That was truly a power that couldn't be contended against. Even if it was a long-lived species, they would still be forcibly split apart and suppressed. Qin Yu thought for several breaths of time. A woman? Bai Fei nodded vigorously. Qin Yu let out a long breath. That basically confirmed everything. It couldn't be meaty. Bai Fei recognized her, and it definitely couldn't be the little blue lamp. First, it had already hidden itself away, and second, it wouldn't be some big boss dressed in women's clothing. There was only one possibility left. Master Juggernaut. In the past, through Meaty's attitude, Qin Yu was able to determine that His Excellency ruler was no ordinary person. And now, this judgment had been verified. How could a mere sovereign realm cultivator defeat the heavenly punishment that could even suppress a longevity seed? What a joke, saying it was simply like an ant trying to shake the heavens. However, it was clear that the Lord Ruler had succeeded. Not only that, but Bai Fei's reaction showed that she was clearly shocked. He hadn't seen her, only heard her voice. There is no need to say anything else. Just this description alone was enough to show how powerful the hegemon was. In the blink of an eye, heavenly punishment was shattered. Thus, there was a high probability that there was a difference between sovereigns. It was the same title, but it was a completely different concept. Who exactly was she? Qin Yu discovered that there were far too many mysteries around him. Without mentioning the little blue lamp, he had risked his life to obtain it. But now that he thought about it, he felt that he had been too lucky. After all, it was a fragment of the blazing sun. No matter how he looked at it, it seemed like it had been arranged to be given to him. There was also little Meaty. She was an existence hidden in space-time, the most powerful being among the long-lived species. Why did she treat him differently? It was true that he was handsome, but it was definitely not the answer. There was also the matter of Her Excellency ruler. Why did she help Qin Yu? Now, it could be confirmed that she was also a real big shot. Then, he thought about the process of him becoming the Lux spirit of the world. Clearly, the Azure Dragon spirit had been waiting for him all along. There must be another reason for this. Qin Yu rubbed his temples and let out a deep breath. I understand. Bai Fei looked at the troubled Qin Yu, thought for a moment, then said, My lord, I wonder who that is. Qin Yu glanced at her. I do not know either. This was the truth. As for a sovereign, Her Excellency, even he was confused. But in Bai Fei's ears, Qin Yu had gone too far. He didn't have the slightest bit of sincerity. A perfunctory response was a perfunctory response, but he went so far. Did he not know? Did he not know that she would save him? Did he really think that there were so many kind-hearted people in this world? Humph, those big shots weren't either. They just sat around doing nothing all day. But right now, she didn't dare to say anything. Qin Yu had hidden himself far too deeply. Who knew what other cards he had in his hands? She couldn't provoke him. Cough, my lord, you truly have a flood of good fortune. There are people protecting you everywhere. In the future, you will surely become a blazing sun. She began to flatter him, because there was at least one thing that Bai Fei was certain of. In the future, she would hold on to Qin Yu's thigh, which didn't seem too thick right now. Whether she would be able to eat and drink well in the future would all depend on him. Qin Yu guessed her thoughts. All right, let's not talk about this for now. Take a closer look at my current state. Yes. Bai Fei earnestly looked at Qinyu, a look of praise on her face. My lord is truly talented. At the half-step sovereign realm, you were able to suppress the invasion of the demonic sense. There won't be any problems for the time being. However, the demonic sense hasn't disappeared. My lord, you haven't been able to truly refine it, so you still need to be careful to avoid giving the demonic sense a chance to take advantage of you. Qinyu nodded. At this time, his heart shrank, and he became extremely vigilant. Something had happened. Qinyu didn't know what it was, but without a doubt, it was related to him. At the same time, the Great Qin Empire, imperial capital, Xianyang, within the imperial palace, the imperial tutor's face was shaken. Just now, he had explained his worries to His Majesty and requested for His Majesty to personally kill the heaven-splitting sword sex Qinyu. Although this request was made by the imperial tutor himself, he never imagined that His Majesty's reaction would be so great. The heaven-splitting sword sex Qinyu truly deserves to die. Emperor Qin slowly spoke from his throne. He stood up. Bang! A terrifying aura instantly shot into the skies. The skies above Xianyang City instantly changed. Countless cultivators widened their eyes in amazement as they looked towards the imperial palace. What happened? The wrath of the emperor. It's the wrath of the emperor. His Majesty Emperor Qin is about to make a move. Countless people cried out in alarm. Fear and dread appeared on their faces. No one knew just what had happened that could cause Emperor Qin's killing intent to erupt. But without a doubt, it was a heaven-shaking event. Your Majesty, the imperial tutor revealed a bewildered expression. Then, he seemed to suddenly think of something. It's him. Could it be him? Emperor Qin nodded. The imperial tutor's guess is correct. My premonition has come true today. He lifted a leg and stepped forwards. Bang! The entire imperial palace trembled. Emperor Qin had already left. In the next moment, space shattered and Emperor Qin stepped out. Below him was a boundless sea, as black as ink. The imperial tutor's figure appeared beside him. Your Majesty, Qinyu is strong, and his methods are extremely strange. Not even heavenly retribution can harm him in the least. Emperor Qin had no expression. If I attack, he will die without a doubt. With a flick of his sleeves, the entire black sea seemed to be stirred up by strong winds. Endless seawater was parted, and with a heaven-shaking rumble, the seabed was revealed. Qinyu looked up, and his heart sank. Great Qin Imperial Tutor. The person beside him seemed to have an even higher status, and his cultivation was immeasurably formidable. This person's identity was obvious. He was the master of the Great Qin Empire, Emperor Qin. This was the first time he had seen the Emperor of the Great Qin Empire, but he could clearly feel that the killing intent he emitted was so thick that it was almost tangible. He had found the reason for his sudden fear just now. But why? Although Qin didn't have a good relationship with the Great Qin Empire, it wasn't to the point where Emperor Qin would personally attack and kill him. An intense aura of crisis crazily invaded his mind. Bai Fei said, "My lord, be careful. Emperor Qin is the strongest existence in the present world. In the central desolate territory, he is strong enough to fight with the long-lived beings." When translated, these words meant that neither of them were a match for him. So he should hurry up and use his trump cards. As long as that person attacked, Emperor Qin wouldn't be a threat. But the problem was that Qin didn't feel any fluctuations of aura. In other words, His Excellency ruler wouldn't interfere in today's matters. Would he have to deal with it himself? Although he was at the half-step sovereign realm and his strength had greatly increased, Emperor Qin was too strong. Qin didn't have any confidence. Bang! With a loud explosion, an invisible strength arrived. It was like the heavens were collapsing and the earth was sinking, wanting to destroy all things. Qin lifted his hand. With a sword cry, the mountain and river sword appeared in his hand. As if it could feel Qin-Yu's current situation, it cried out on its own. He lifted his hand and slashed out. A terrifying sword aura shot into the heavens, colliding with the descending strength. Bang! Beneath Qin Yu, the seabed instantly exploded, forming a terrifying pit. He stood at the bottom of the pit. Cracks appeared, spreading out in all directions. Cough, cough. Qin Yu violently coughed, blood leaking out from his mouth and nose. Emperor Qin was just this terrifying. As Bai Feifei had said, he was the strongest in the present world, without a doubt. The imperial scholar's heart shook. Qin Yu's strength had surpassed his expectations. He was actually able to forcefully resist His Majesty's strike. But the stronger he was, the more he had to die. If His Majesty attacked today, it wouldn't give him any chance to make a comeback. Emperor Qin was expressionless. He lifted his hand and pressed down. Rumble, rumble, rumble. The entire Black Sea began to boil. Every single drop exploded, destroyed by terrifying power. Then, in the midst of the explosion, an even more terrifying destructive strength was released. It swept out in all directions, instantly wrapping Qin Yu within. Hum! With a sword cry, countless sword auras erupted. A small world was constructed, protecting Qin Yu within. But now, under the impact of the destructive strength, the sword breath small world was rapidly deforming and distorting. Sword auras broke apart, disintegrated, and disappeared. The eruption of the mountain and river sword was simply not enough to make up for the speed at which the sword breath was being consumed. It couldn't resist. Bai Feifei screamed, "My lord, we've done our best. Hurry and ask that person behind you to help, otherwise it will be too late." Qin Yu clenched his teeth. She won't help. Bai Feifei was dumbfounded. She didn't ask why, because at this time, Qin Yu wouldn't joke around with life and death. Could it be because she had already helped once? But what was the truth? Bai Feifei was no longer in the mood to consider it. "My lord, bear with it, bear with it. Don't use the blazing sun fragment for now. This was the last resort, the last resort. Once it erupted, even if he could survive, he would be sentenced to death." Qin Yu stuffily coughed and spat out a mouthful of blood. He thought that this woman Bai Feifei really liked to spout nonsense. If he hadn't endured it, would he have been beaten to the point of spitting out blood? But if this continued, he really wouldn't be able to hold on. Moreover, he couldn't see any turning point. In today's situation, Emperor Qin had personally arrived to suppress and kill him. Who would dare to interfere? Chapter 1789. The Middle Wilderness shook. After countless years, the Qin Emperor attacked once again. All the true emperors in the world couldn't help but reveal solemn expressions. Whether they were willing or not, some memories of the past appeared in their minds. Apart from being shocked, they also felt a bit lucky. Lucky that the Qin Emperor attacked today and his target wasn't them. Heaven-splitting sword sect, Qin Yu. On this day, he was undoubtedly the person who could attract the attention of the world the most. After several life and death situations, would Qin Yu be able to survive this time? Normally, if the Qin Emperor attacked, he would die without a doubt. The true emperors didn't doubt this at all. But Qin Yu wasn't a person that could be summed up with common sense. He was unharmed even under the heavenly retribution. He was unfathomable. Now, the true emperors no longer doubted that Qin Yu had the secret of immortality. The reason was simple. Blocking the heavenly retribution was one of the reasons. Now that the Qin Emperor attacked, it was the most direct and powerful evidence. After all, if it wasn't for the secret of immortality, why would the Qin Emperor attack? This was a simple logic. But in reality, the true emperors had guessed wrong. The Qin Emperor attacking to kill Qin Yu had nothing to do with immortality. It was because he knew about the heavenly retribution. He didn't want to be tainted by it at all. Otherwise, he wouldn't have waited until today. He would have done it himself. The Qin Emperor wanted to kill Qin Yu for the sake of the Qin Empire, for the continuation of the Qin Empire. And Qin Yu was called Qin Yu. So he had to die. The imperial teacher knew everything, so he didn't do anything. Because killing Qin Yu could only be done by His Majesty alone. But at this moment, the imperial teacher suddenly frowned. Confusion and shock appeared in the depths of his eyes. The Qin Emperor stopped attacking. He looked up. The space in front of him silently parted and a figure walked out. The faint vibrations around him caused the space to distort, hiding him inside. Tower Master, I need an explanation. At this moment, the person who had descended was none other than the 13th Tower's Tower Master. And in the entire world, he was probably the only one who dared to stand in front of the Qin Emperor in this situation. The 13th Tower was an immortal land. It transcended the world and never participated in the internal conflicts of the Middle Wilderness. If the Qin Emperor's sudden attack shook the Middle Wilderness, then the arrival of the Tower Master of the 13th Tower was an unprecedented earthquake. The Tower Master's existence was like the sun, moon, and stars above his head. He was eternal, but could not be touched. And today he was right in front of them. Qin's sovereign, Qin Yu isn't the person you are looking for. Give him a chance to live. Tower Master, do you insist on this? Yes. The Qin Emperor remained silent. The world fell into silence. At this moment, even the true emperors couldn't help but break out in cold sweat when they sensed the quietness of the place. If the two sides couldn't come to an agreement, a war would break out between the great Qin Empire and the 13th Tower. The impact it would cause would far exceed their imaginations. None of them could remain unscathed and would inevitably be drawn into it. The people were plunged into misery and suffering, and the catastrophe of the world was right before their eyes. The imperial advisor took a deep breath and bowed. Your Majesty. He broke the silence, causing the extremely tense atmosphere to slightly ease. Qin Huang was expressionless. We need an answer, the brothel master said. I will hand it over to the Qin Emperor. Both sides took a step back. Shua. The Qin Emperor turned around and left. The imperial advisor bowed respectfully and left. An earth-shattering battle ended just like that. The true emperors who sensed the area subconsciously heaved a sigh of relief. In the Heavenly Bull region, Niu Dingtian wiped his cold sweat and bitterly smiled. He really felt that Qin Yu was truly unfathomable. Even the brothel master had personally stopped the Qin Emperor for him. However, this wasn't necessarily a good thing. Brothel master Niu Dingtian shook his head and suppressed his thoughts. He didn't want the Heavenly Bull region to be targeted by the 13th Tower. That would mean death, and he would be the one to die. The brothel master turned around. Qin Yu also looked at him, and their eyes met. Sect Master Qin, I saved your life. Aren't you going to thank me? Qin Yu said, If I thank you, will the brothel master let me go? The brothel master shook his head. No. Qin Yu said, So, there is no need for me to thank you. Sect Master Qin is a wonderful person. The brothel master stretched out his hand. Please. Qin Yu said, Please lead the way. Shua, shua. The two figures disappeared one after another. Rumble, rumble. In the next moment, the entire black sea exploded. Endless water vapor rose into the air, revealing the dry seabed. A moment later, when everything returned to silence, the darkness had already vanished. On the earth, there was now a 100,000-mile canyon. All life had been extinguished, and this was the result of the confrontation between Qin Emperor and the brothel master. They hadn't done anything yet, but they had already begun to fight. Invisible auras collided, destroying everything here. It was unknown how many aquatic life forms died here. This was the sorrow of the weak. It wasn't intentionally targeted, but they were simply too weak. They were so weak that if some powerful existence approached them, they would die. They were worthless, and no one would remember them. No one would remember this hatred. In the skies, the clouds, or the stairs. It was the 13th Tower. At almost the same time, space quietly shook. The brothel master and Qin Yu walked out. The surrounding cultivators of the 13th Tower all bowed. The brothel master flicked his sleeves, and they turned to leave. Soon, there were only two people left on this cloud platform. Qin Yu's eyes swept around. His thoughts stirred, and he understood. This place was the same as the Star Sea Grotto. It was a small world. It seemed to float in the skies, but it was actually isolated from the outside world. Without permission, it was difficult to enter or exit. That race's Star River Grotto can be called unique in the present world. After Sect Master Qin obtains it, if he can make good use of it, it will be your foundation. The brothel master sat down and said in a soft voice. Qin Yu said, "If the brothel master is willing, I am willing to offer up the Star River Grotto." The brothel master smiled. Sect Master Qin, you seem to have little trust in me. Qin Yu said, "I am only well aware that everything in this world requires a price." He lifted a hand and pointed to himself. "For instance, today, the brothel master helped me. While I am grateful, I can't help but feel restless. I wonder what the brothel master wishes to obtain." The brothel master flicked his sleeves. A tea set appeared in front of the two people. Steam rose up from it. "Sect Master Qin, please drink some tea." He picked it up and drank 2 sips. He didn't directly answer Qin Yu's question. Instead, he said, "Sect Master Qin must be puzzled as to why the Qin Emperor tried to kill you without any warning." "Yes. Can the brothel master dispel my doubts?" "Of course." The brothel master faintly smiled. "In truth, the reason is very simple. Many years ago, the Qin Emperor had a stroke of insight and made a note for himself. It was a true saying. The one who causes chaos in the Qin is also Qin." Qin Yu frowned. He really didn't think the truth would be like this. What did this have to do with anything? Just because of these words, he had been targeted by the Qin Emperor, and he had almost died under the Qin Emperor's hands. How laughable. But now, Qin Yu couldn't laugh. It was clear that the Qin Emperor really did regard him as the one who caused chaos in the Qin. He took a deep breath and exhaled. He cupped his hands together and said, "Thank you, brothel master." The brothel master said, "This is only a show of my sincerity. I hope that Sect Master Qin believes that the 13th floor has no ill intentions towards you." "What does the brothel master need me to do?" "You may speak. I want to live forever." Direct, straightforward, and to the point. On the cloud platform, there was a brief silence. Qin Yu slowly said, "Is the brothel master not afraid of heavenly retribution?" "I am afraid." The brothel master lifted a hand and pointed. "That is why I need Sect Master Qin to step forward." He understood. "To put it simply, you resist the lightning, and I'll pluck the fruit." The brothel master of the 13th floor had described his actions in such a calm and tranquil manner. It was also extraordinary, but Qin Yu knew that he had no other choice. Otherwise, the Qin Emperor could kill him, and so could the brothel master. The two were evenly matched. According to Bai Fei, an Emperor Realm cultivator possessed a portion of the power of the Eternal Realm. They were invincible in the present age, immortal existences. All right, Qin Yu agreed immediately. After recognizing his own position and judging the situation, there was no need to drag things out. It was meaningless and a waste of time. The brothel master smiled. Sect Master Qin is straightforward. In return, this seat will buy Sect Master Qin some time. During this time, the Qin Emperor will not make a move against you. Of course, the one who causes chaos in the Qin is also Qin, Sect Master Qin. I will need you to investigate the root of this problem yourself and resolve it." Qin Yu nodded. "All right," the brothel master said. "Qiongji and Sect Master Qin are old acquaintances. Let him assist Sect Master Qin in the following period of time." He stood up and smiled. "In addition, there is another person in the building who has a deep relationship with Sect Master Qin. Someone will bring Sect Master Qin to see her. This seat has other matters to attend to, so farewell." He turned and disappeared. Qin Yu's heart sank. Soon, a person flew onto the cloud platform and cupped his hands. "Sect Master Qin, I will lead the way on the brothel master's orders." "Thank you." The two flew off the cloud platform, passed through a large number of pavilions and palaces, and stopped in the air above a courtyard. The guide stopped and pointed. "The person Sect Master Qin wants to see is here." Finished speaking, he cupped his hands and turned to leave. Without needing to see, Qin Yu knew who the person in the courtyard was the moment he looked down. As expected, he had been discovered. Taking a deep breath, Qin Yu landed, walked to the door, and pushed it open. The courtyard door opened, and he stepped inside. "Who is it?" A low, vigilant shout came from the room. The restrictive formation in the courtyard was activated. But soon all of this stopped. Li Ruhua looked at Qin Yu standing in the courtyard, shock anger and panic in her eyes. How could he be here? Qin Yu said, Miss Li, it's been a long time. Li Ruhua coldly said, Sect Master Qin, how dare you? This is the 13th floor, and yet you dare to intrude into my residence without permission. Please leave immediately. Qin Yu said, Miss Li, if there is no one to lead the way, how could I have known that you lived here? He stepped forwards. So, don't be angry for now. I also have some matters that I hope to obtain an answer from you. He flicked his sleeves. The mountain river sword appeared, floating in the air above the courtyard. Sword light erupted, instantly covering the area and isolating everything. A trace of anger appeared on Li Ruhua's face. Get out, get out. Qin Yu lifted a hand. She froze on the spot. Your cultivation is yours, but it isn't just yours. Perhaps it was because he felt that these words were a bit too difficult to understand, but he rubbed the space between his eyebrows. In short, something must have happened between you and me. He looked at Li Ruhua. Today, I will find an answer. Li Ruhua screamed. Don't even think about it. I don't know anything. Not cooperating, Qin Yu thought for a moment. Bai Fei Fei. Shua. Her figure appeared. She looked at Li Ruhua and then at Qin Yu, an awkward expression on her face. My lord, this isn't too good, right? Qin Yu was expressionless. Bai Fei Fei immediately fell silent. She walked in front of Li Ruhua. What do you want to do? Bai Fei Fei lifted a hand and slapped her forehead. There was a light smack. You woman, you don't know how lucky you are. This old lady wants you more than anything. Be a good girl and say it so that there won't be any more trouble. She took a step forward. She was like a shadow as she merged into Li Ruhua's body. She closed her eyes and fell asleep. Qin Yu quietly waited at the side. It wasn't that he was rude, but that this matter had to be investigated. And now, he had no time to waste with Li Ruhua. He could only choose the fastest and most effective method. If she didn't cooperate, then he would use force. After a moment, Bai Fei Fei's figure walked out from Li Ruhua's body, rapidly turning from illusory to solid. She met Qin Yu's gaze, a strange expression on her face. My lord, I've investigated it. Qin Yu said, Speak. Bai Fei Fei lifted a hand and pointed at Li Ruhua. She is connected to your aura, and the reason you're one is because, she is your wife. Qin Yu frowned. What nonsense. Chapter 1790. Bai Fei Fei did not speak. Qin Yu glanced at her, then at her again. My lord, it's true. If you don't believe me, you can see for yourself. Bai Fei Fei stretched out her hand. Qin Yu thought for a moment, then grasped it. Countless scenes quickly appeared in his mind. Everything that had happened in the realm of Nank and Golden Millet, he had experienced it all again. Or rather, Qin Yu had recalled everything. Little meat. He gritted his teeth, a bitter smile on his face. Qin Yu didn't believe a single word that she hadn't arranged all of this. But why? Even if she wanted to borrow Li Ruhua's luck to arrange for her to help Qin Yu accumulate his cultivation, there was no need to use such a method, right? Where did Little Meat get her bad taste? However, from this point of view, it did make sense to say that Li Ruhua was his wife. Even if all of this was more like a dream to Qin Yu. Bai Fei Fei withdrew her hand, coughing lightly. My lord, I will not interfere in your private affairs. Please settle it yourself. With that, her figure faded away. Bai Fei Fei could not be bothered with such trivial matters. What if the two of them reconciled in the future? After all, matters between men and women were never clear. Don't be fooled by the coldness now. Who knew when they would become passionate? It was better not to cause trouble for herself. Swish, opposite him, Li Ruhua opened her eyes, staring at Qin Yu with a frosty expression. She had been conscious throughout everything that had happened. This was a bit embarrassing. Qin Yu coughed lightly. My apologies, I have offended you. With a flick of his sleeves, he released Li Ruhua's suppression. Qin Yu, I will kill you. She threw herself at him, murderous. He could definitely beat her, but Qin Yu had a guilty conscience. Moreover, the reputation of hitting women was too bad. Yes, a good man did not fight with a woman. That was it. In the following time, Qin Yu remained motionless, acting as a target for her to vent her anger. He also had to control his strength to avoid hurting Li Ruhua. He let her hit him to her heart's content, until he was panting and sweating profusely. Looking at Li Ruhua in front of him, some scenes suddenly flashed in Qin Yu's mind. It seemed that Li Ruhua had panted like this when she was dreaming. Only that was on the bed, and her expression was much better than now. Hiss, what am I thinking? Qin Yu rubbed his face. He felt that he was indeed a bit abnormal. However, there was one thing that was undeniable. That feeling was indeed memorable. It was as if Qin Yu had personally experienced it. Qin Yu. Li Ruhua's face reddened as she glared at him. Qin Yu was startled. He didn't say anything at all. So how did she know? However, it was obvious that Li Ruhua had sensed something. Although he was so tired that he was panting, he still rushed forward and continued to ravage him. The only pity was that the methods she used to trample upon him had a limited effect. She wasn't able to cause any substantial harm to him at all. Qin Yu's current strength far surpassed Li Ruhua's. Secondly, Li Ruhua's half-martial monarch realm was dependent on Qin Yu. Just as Qin Yu had said before, your cultivation is yours, but it's not just yours. If Li Ruhua wanted to injure Qin Yu, it would be extremely difficult. Finally, she collapsed from exhaustion. Perhaps it was because today's experience had a great psychological impact on her, but Li Ruhua fainted. Qin Yu looked at Li Ruhua on the ground. After a moment's hesitation, he picked her up and carried her back to her room. He glanced at the unconscious woman, who was still frowning. Qin Yu couldn't help but sigh. Another muddled account. Little meat, hurry up and come back. I have to properly settle this with you. Returning to the courtyard, Qin Yu was silent. He thought for a moment. Bai Feifei, come out. Shua, Bai Feifei appeared. My lord, I was asleep just now. I didn't see or hear anything. Her expression was solemn, as if she wished she could swear an oath on the spot. Qin Yu's lips twitched. He coldly coughed. I can't be bothered to bother with you. I didn't ask you to come out for such trivial matters. Help me think about it. Just why did Qin Huang want to kill me? Bai Feifei said, My lord, aren't you asking the wrong person? I haven't been with you for long, so I don't know anything. Qin Yu said, I am well aware that besides my surname Qin, I have never had any connection with the great Qin Empire. Could it be just because of my surname? That would be far too laughable. The world is so vast, and there are millions of people with the surname Qin. Emperor Qin can't possibly find them and kill them all. Bai Feifei could see that Qin Yu was a bit angry, otherwise he wouldn't have said such stupid words. She thought for a moment and then cautiously said, Emperor Qin isn't so senseless. If he wants to kill my lord, there must be a reason. Say something useful. Bai Feifei coughed. What is useful is that my lord carefully think about it. Have you forgotten something important? To Emperor Qin, those who cause chaos in Qin are also Qin. This is a bottom line that cannot be crossed. If you cannot solve this problem, Emperor Qin will definitely attack again. Qin Yu rubbed his temples. I am certain that I haven't forgotten anything. As he spoke to her, he suddenly paused. It seemed that he hadn't forgotten anything. For instance, the memories of grandeur and the golden millet realm had been blocked by little Meaty, causing him to be kept in the dark until today. Could this be the reason why Emperor Qin wanted to kill him? He spoke of his speculations. Bai Feifei said, It isn't impossible. After all, grandeur and golden millet realms seem like dreams, but these dreams aren't ordinary at all. Otherwise, Li Ruhua wouldn't have formed such a close connection with my lord. Qin Yu nodded. But soon, he felt a headache coming on. Li Ruhua's attitude was the key. Looking at the current situation, she didn't want to communicate with Qin Yu at all. If he wanted to learn anything about grandeur and the golden millet realm from her, it would undoubtedly be difficult. Bai Feifei said, My lord, there is no need to worry. When I was reading Li Ruhua's memories about grandeur and the golden millet realm, I discovered something. It is currently in the hands of a cultivator called Li Mu. As long as my lord can find him, you can enter grandeur and the golden millet realm and investigate the truth yourself. Qin Yu's eyes brightened. You know where Li Mu is? Bai Feifei shook her head. But I know that Li Ruhua can find him. Qin Yu nodded. Although the problems still returned to Li Ruhua, it was still much simpler to just ask for a person's contact information. As for whether or not she would cooperate, Chinyu let out a breath, his eyes tranquil once more. Although he couldn't help but feel a little guilty towards Li Ruhua grandeur and the Golden Millet realm. Just what was going on? Why would Li Ruhua appear in this place? This matter simply couldn't stand up to scrutiny. So, while there was a bit of guilt, it wasn't much. When it came to matters that involved his life or death, Chinyu wouldn't give Li Ruhua a chance to continue coldly resisting. It was best if she spoke, but if she didn't, Bai Fei would still be useful. Half a day later, Li Ruhua woke up. She blinked, her eyebrows furrowing together. This isn't a dream. Shua. She fiercely stood up and glared at Chinyu. Why are you here? Get out. Chinyu looked at her. Li Ruhua. If I wanted to do something, I could have done it while you were unconscious. In fact, if I wanted it, even if you were awake, I could have done it. Li Ruhua's eyes widened. She glared at Chinyu. Get out. Get out. She was thoroughly enraged. Chinyu frowned. He lifted a hand and pointed forward. She froze in place. Li Ruhua, I have a question. If you give me an answer, I will immediately leave. Grandeur and the Golden Millet realm are in Li Mu's hands. I want you to tell me how to find him. Of course, you can refuse to answer. But you've already experienced the same thing once. I hope that you can think this through. Chinyu flicked his sleeves, releasing the suppression on her. Chinyu. Li Ruhua clenched her teeth, her eyes filled with anger. Chinyu was expressionless. Give me your answer. Li Ruhua took a deep breath. Li Mu is a direct descendant of the Leaf family of the Four Families. Last time I asked him to help, he owed me a favor. Now, I have no way of contacting him. This is the only thing I can tell you. Chinyu glanced at her. He cupped his hands together. Thank you. He turned and left. Bai Fei was startled. My lord, you're leaving just like that? Chinyu said, haven't you seen enough? No, I mean, how could you believe her so easily? What if she's lying to you? She won't. Chinyu pushed open the door and walked out of the small courtyard. He raised his hand, and the mountain river sword whistled into his hand. True Sovereign Xiongji was already waiting outside. He cupped his hands together and bowed. Sect Master Qin, the Tower Master has ordered me to assist you. True Sovereign Xiongji. Chinyu cupped his hands in return and said, I'm going to leave the 13th floor now. He looked up and said in a deep voice, Tower Master, I'm leaving. Swish, the space flashed, and the Tower Master walked out. Sect Master Qin, have you met an old friend? Chinyu glanced at him and said, Li Ruhua and I do have a deep relationship. I hope Tower Master can take care of her. The Tower Master smiled. Of course, Li Ruhua is the most outstanding disciple of my 13th floor. I'm going to take her as my disciple and teach her. Chinyu nodded. Thank you, Tower Master. The Tower Master flicked his sleeves and opened the heaven world. Sect Master Qin, have a safe trip. Farewell. Chinyu stepped forwards and vanished from sight. True Sovereign Xiongji bowed to the Tower Master and followed. Creak. The courtyard doors opened and Li Ruhua walked out, a restless look on her face. Tower Master. The Tower Master lifted a hand and lightly said, Li Ruhua, I ask you, are you willing to enter my tutelage and cultivate? Li Ruhua fell to her knees and kowtowed. Disciple greets, honorable master. The Tower Master smiled. Very good. From now on, you are my disciple. There was no agreement between him and Chinyu. But as long as Li Ruhua was in his hands, he didn't fear Chinyu going back on his word. Their auras were connected and they shared weal and woe. Holding Li Ruhua in his hands was the same as grasping Chinyu's life. On the ground, Li Ruhua clenched her fists, her eyes icy cold. Chinyu, one day, I'll return all this humiliation in double. Space surged. Chinyu and True Sovereign Xiongji walked out one after another. The Tower Master asked you to work for me. Is there some doubt? True Sovereign Xiongji bitterly smiled. I don't know, but the Tower Master is extremely powerful and nearly omniscient. There was a trace of fear on his face. For a dignified, true sovereign to reveal such an expression, there was no need to doubt the strength of the Tower Master of the 13th floor. Chinyu took a deep breath. Omniscient. He could already confirm that the Tower Master of the 13th floor knew of his relationship with Li Ruhua. Before leaving, he told Qin Yu that he wanted to take Li Ruhua as his disciple. This was a threat, but luckily, the Tower Master had placed all of this in the open. Although this was the actions of a villain, a true villain would always be better than a hypocrite. Moreover, this also showed that the Tower Master was willing to make this transaction with Qin Yu. As long as there were no problems with the transaction, Li Ruhua would be fine. At least, she would be safe for a period of time. Qin Yu let out a long breath and suppressed his thoughts. He only hoped that Li Ruhua would know everything sooner rather than becoming a hostage in the Tower Master's hands. He had to admit that he didn't truly care about Li Ruhua. But right now, Li Ruhua and he were in a state of two sides of the same coin. If something happened to Li Ruhua, he would also suffer misfortune. True Sovereign Qiongji said, "Sect Master Qin, where do we go next?" Qin Yu said, "To find someone." The central wasteland divine continent was a vast land with countless cultivators. It was divided into countless large and small influences. It could be said that their roots were intertwined with each other. But among them, the most famous and powerful were undoubtedly the four sects and four families. They ruled over large tracts of land. The 13th floor was certainly the strongest, but the so-called immortal lands were places that ordinary people couldn't enter, and they rarely interfered with worldly affairs. Thus, they weren't included. Skyrend, Doubt Essence, Dark Marsh, and Limitless World were the four sects. Zhao, Su, Li, and Tian were the four families. They represented the peak influences of the central wasteland divine continent. The Li family was ranked third among the four families. The old ancestor of the family was one of the oldest true sovereigns. Moreover, through marriage, taking in disciples, and making offerings, they had accumulated an extremely deep foundation. There were 6 half-step sovereigns. As for the remaining sovereign powerhouses, they were innumerable. It had to be known that a long time ago, the Li family was only one of the 4 families of the central wasteland divine continent. With the strength of a single family, they had the qualifications to rule over one of the 8 desolate domains. This was also why when Li Ruhua and Li Ge had descended to the Western Wilderness, with their status as the Western Wilderness Great Emperor, they had to tolerate them. Tong City was the foundation of the Li family. It was the origin of the Li family. After a long time, the Li family kept expanding. It had grown from a small city to one of the largest cities in the eastern part of the Central Wasteland. In the city, there was a wutong tree that was green all year round. Rumor had it that a phoenix rested on the wutong tree. It was the guardian beast of the Li family and had the strength to fight against a true sovereign. At this moment, Li Mu was on the wutong tree. He suddenly frowned, and a bitter expression appeared on his face. "Li Ruhua, you really made a bad friend." He raised his hand and rubbed his face. Sure enough, trouble still came to him. Li Mu flipped over and landed on the ground. Suddenly, a cry rang out. A huge bird spread its wings and flew out, carrying him on its back. Its feathers were gorgeous and seemed to have flowing light flowing around them. There was a feather crown on its head, giving off a luxurious aura. It was the phoenix resting on the wutong tree. Li Mu reached out and patted it. "Let's go home." The phoenix flapped its wings. The space shook and instantly disappeared. Chapter 1791. Great Qin Imperial Capital. Xianyang. The atmosphere in the Imperial Palace was depressing. Everyone knew that His Majesty was not in a good mood. To be precise, he was in a very bad mood. Over the past few days, more than 300 palace servants had been punished for angering His Majesty. Naturally, the only ending for them was death. "Imperial Advisor, you are finally here. His Majesty has been waiting for a long time." The eunuch outside the hall bowed and ran over, his face full of anxiety. "Hurry in, don't make His Majesty angry." Imperial Advisor nodded. "You can all leave." "Yes." The eunuch waved his hand, and the people around the hall bowed and left. Pushing open the door, Imperial Advisor walked in. "Greetings, Your Majesty." Humph. Imperial Advisor, you still know to come see me? Qin Emperor sneered. Imperial Advisor had a calm expression. Your Majesty, I left for a few days and went to West Desolation. Qin Emperor looked up. Imperial Advisor continued. Heaven-opening sword sects Qin Yu from West Desolation Zhou clan. I have investigated his identity. The details are here. He handed over a jade slip with both hands. Qin Emperor took it and flipped through it. Thank you, Imperial Advisor. His tone softened. Imperial Advisor cupped his hands. I assist His Majesty. Naturally, I will help His Majesty. Keep an eye on him. I have a use for him. Yes. Imperial Advisor thought for a moment. Your Majesty, are you sure about Qin Yu? After all, looking at their past, they have no connection with our great Qin Empire. Qin Emperor lightly said, I am not completely sure, but it is not important now. Imperial Advisor nodded. That day, His Majesty personally took action. If it wasn't for the Tower Master, Qin Yu would have died. With this, the relationship between Great Qin and Qin Yu could no longer be eased. He had to die. Your Majesty, did the Tower Master help to enter the Eternal Realm? Qin Emperor sneered. The Tower Master is a bit anxious. It seems his immortal item has begun to break. Imperial Advisor said, Congratulations, Your Majesty. With the Tower Master gone, Qin Emperor had no opponent in the Eternal Realm. Qin Emperor waved his hand. It is too early to congratulate. And I have a new problem. Qin Yu has become stronger too quickly. I cannot see through him. The Imperial Scholar nodded. He had personally witnessed Qin Yu's strength, and the increase in his strength was truly astonishing. I will activate the Empire's intelligence network to investigate Qin Yu's whereabouts. As long as he leaves the 13th floor, there will be nowhere for him to hide. Thank you, Imperial Preceptor. Your Majesty. Space silently collapsed, and two people walked out of it. True Emperor Qiongji pointed. Sect Master Qin, this is Tong City. Qin Yu swept his eyes around and couldn't help but sigh inwardly. What a great city. It was like a giant beast crawling on the ground, blocking a large portion of the sky and casting an endless shadow. However, that was all. There was no reverence or admiration, not even the slightest bit. This was because he had already stepped into the Emperor realm. If he were to unleash his full strength, he could even withstand Emperor Qin for a moment. Just this point alone was enough to surpass most true emperors in this world. Although Tong City was big, it was only big. If Qin Yu wanted to, he could destroy it with a wave of his hand. Let's go. Qin Yu stepped forwards and walked towards Tong City. True Sovereign Xiongji followed behind and frowned slightly as he looked at his back. In fact, he really wanted to ask what Qin Yu's plan was. He already knew who Qin Yu was looking for. Even as a true sovereign of the 13th Tower, he had heard of Li Mu. He was a direct descendant of the Li family and an outstanding talent of the younger generation. He was ranked first among the top 10 prodigies below the Emperor realm and was highly valued by the Li family's forefather. Li Mu was someone who could flaunt his seniority in front of the Tower Lord. He was extremely powerful. After all, under normal circumstances, even a dog could become extremely terrifying as long as it lived long enough. Not to mention someone like Li Mu. Although Qin Yu was able to block Emperor Qin for a moment, and his killing intent was shocking, nothing good would come out of it if he just went up to Li Mu. It wouldn't work even if true Sovereign Xiongji was included, because this was Tong City. Not to mention the annoying Phoenix. Ancestor Li was undefeatable just because of the home advantage. True Emperor Qiongji couldn't figure out where Qin Yu's confidence came from. Or did he have some other tricks up his sleeve? Swoosh swoosh two figures flew over with a piercing sound. Li Sang and Li Qing of the Li family greet sect Master Qin and True Emperor Qiongji. The two of them bowed respectfully. True Emperor Qiongji's expression changed slightly. The Li family was strong indeed. They'd just arrived and hadn't done anything, but the other party had come knocking on their door and figured out their identities. Just this point alone was a show of strength that wasn't that obvious. True Emperor Qiongji glanced at the still calm Qin Yu. She glanced at Qin Yu and saw that he still had a calm expression. She was even more pessimistic about his plan. The forefather is waiting. Please meet Sect Master Qin and true Emperor Qiongji. Qin nodded. Lead the way, please. Li Sang and Li Mu bowed respectfully before turning around and flying ahead. On the ground, countless gazes looked over with boundless respect. Although they didn't recognize Qin Yu and Qiongji, Li Sang and Li Mu were the true bigwigs of Fuzhou City. They were in charge of daily affairs and were like heaven to them. But now, the attitudes of the two of them proved just how important Qin Yu and Qiongji's statuses were. Could it be that a true emperor had arrived? When this thought occurred to them, the gazes from the ground became more respectful and restrained. After all, no one wanted to anger a true emperor because of such rudeness. Qin Yu's eyes fell on the parasol tree in the city that seemed to support the heavens. It was lush with leaves and full of vitality. True Emperor Qiongji said, "This parasol tree is a relic from ancient times. It attracted a phoenix and built a nest on it. Its strength is comparable to a true emperor." Qin Yu knew that Qiongji was reminding him. He nodded, but his expression was still calm. The Li family was indeed powerful. As one of the four families, he had done his research. After all, with his cultivation at this level, it was hard not to interact with them in the central wilderness. The Li ancestor was strong. He also had a phoenix to protect him. The family had a deep background and many half-emperor powerhouses. But to Qin Yu, this was useless. Today, he came to ask for people. The Li family had to give them to him whether they wanted to or not. This wasn't arrogance, but Qin Yu had a trump card in his hand. Sect Master Qin, true Emperor Qiongji, we've arrived. Li Sang and Li Mu landed first. In the next moment, a calm voice resounded through the world. Sect Master Qin, true Emperor Qiongji has come to visit. The entire Li family is radiant with glory. I hope you can forgive me for not coming out to greet you. Ancestor Li stepped out to greet them. He wore wide white robes and exuded an otherworldly aura. This was different from what one imagined. Ancestor Li had lived for countless years and didn't appear in his old age. He looked like a middle-aged man around 30 years old. His eyes were filled with the vicissitudes of life, and he was handsome and carefree. Qin Yu cupped his hands together. Greetings, Ancestor Li. True Emperor Qiongji said, Ancestor Li, I took the liberty to visit. I hope you don't blame me. Ancestor Li faintly smiled. Two true emperors visiting my Li family is the face of my Li family, so I naturally didn't take the liberty to speak. Two friends, I have already prepared some meager wine. Please have a drink. There are some juniors in my family who are impatient to come greet the two true emperors. His eyes turned and fell on Qin Yu. And among them, there are several little fellows who are loyal believers of Sect Master Qin. They cultivate the sword path and naturally hope to receive 1 or 2 pointers from Sect Master Qin. I hope that Sect Master Qin will not find this troublesome. Qin Yu said, since Ancestor Li has spoken, I have no objections. But the reason I came here today is to look for someone in the Li family. I would like to ask Ancestor Li to help me. I will be deeply grateful. True Emperor Qiongji's face stiffened. Qin Yu was about to get straight to the point. Why was he in such a hurry? He didn't leave any room for a buffer. If he were to be directly rejected, wouldn't the situation turn stiff? He coughed lightly and said, Ancestor Li, I came here on the orders of the Tower Master to assist Sect Master Qin. There are some things I hope you can accommodate me a little. The reason he brought up the Tower Master wasn't to scare Ancestor Li away. True Emperor Qiongji was well aware that this was useless. Ancestor Li had already acted shamelessly in front of the Tower Master more than once. The Tower Master had endured it. The only reason he spoke up was because he hoped that this old thing knew that this contained the will of the Tower Master and that he should be careful in his actions. Ah, I see. Ancestor Li faintly smiled. Since Sect Master Qin has spoken and the Tower Master has some face, I naturally won't refuse. Please enter. We will speak after we are seated. Qin Yu glanced at him. Things are going so smoothly. He always felt that there was a problem here. But since Ancestor Li agreed, then he would wait and see just what medicine he had up his sleeves. They entered the Li family. The main hall used to receive honored guests had already been prepared. Although the place was large, there were only 3 tables. This was because with Qin Yu and Xiongji's status, only Ancestor Li had the qualifications to receive guests. If it were anyone else, that would be a great disrespect to the true emperor. Sect Master Qin, true Emperor Xiongji, please have a drink. Ancestor Li smiled and raised his hand, draining it in a single gulp. Qin Yu maintained his composure. He picked up his cup and drank. Ancestor Li, the one I am looking for is a junior of the Li family. Li Zhu rubbed his palms together and laughed. What a coincidence. My Li family's juniors are all waiting outside the hall. I will let them in now. Sovereign Qin, if you want to find someone, just call him out and ask him to speak with you. True Emperor Xiongji put down his cup, a smile on his face. Luckily, Ancestor Li was very cooperative. It seemed that the face of the Tower Master had taken effect. Or rather, Qin Yu's name was very useful right now. After all, he was the only one in the last several thousand years. He was a man who had survived the attack of Qin Emperor. Although the Tower Master had saved him, it was still amazing that he could resist Qin Emperor's attacks. At the very least, true Emperor Xiongji didn't have the slightest confidence. If it were him, he would have died long ago. A group of Li family youths filed into the hall. There were over 100 of them. But one had to believe that for the Li family that occupied one of the 4 families that had existed for dozens of generations, this was already an outstanding junior left behind. Otherwise, if they all came, even if the hall was expanded 10 times, it still wouldn't be able to accommodate them. Greetings, old ancestor. Everyone knelt down and bowed. Ancestor Li smiled and waved his hand. Stand up, open your eyes wide, and look clearly. In front of you is the heaven-splitting sword sect Master Qin and the protector of the 13th tower, true Emperor Xiongji. They are both characters that can shake mountains with a stamp of their feet in the central desolate divine continent. In the future, remember this. Do not ever offend me. The Li family youths turned and bowed. Greetings, sect Master Qin, true Emperor Xiongji. Several of them looked at Qin Yu. Their faces flushed red with excitement. They were sword cultivators. And Qin Yu was the unquestionable leader of the sword Dao lineage in the present world. He was the current number 1 person. Qin Yu looked up. Ancestor Li, the person I am looking for is not here. The smiling true Emperor Xiongji's heart skipped a beat. There really was a mistake. He knew that this old thing Ancestor Li wouldn't easily cooperate. Cough. Sect Master Qin, how about you take a closer look? Qin Yu said, he's not here. Ancestor Li was surprised. He's not here? The most outstanding juniors of the Li family are all in the main hall. Or, I can have my subordinates find the others so that Sect Master Qin can search for them one by one. There is no need to trouble yourself. The person I am looking for is Li Mu. Qin Yu said, I will have to trouble Ancestor Li to summon him to the main hall. Ancestor Li shook his head. Li Mu, that will be a bit troublesome. That boy didn't cultivate properly and was driven out of the family by me. I have no idea where he is right now. He smiled. Sect Master Qin, rest assured that I will have someone look for him. When he returns, I will inform Sect Master as soon as possible. Qin Yu was silent. The main hall fell silent. True Emperor Xiongji hurriedly tried to smooth things over. Sect Master Qin, since Ancestor Li has said so, we might as well wait. We should be able to find Li Mu soon. His eyes fell on Ancestor Li. Normally speaking, that's true. But this time, I drove Li Mu out because I was really angry. So, I took back the Li family's peace token from him. Ancestor Li shook his head. So, if we want to find this kid, I'm afraid it'll take some time. But that's fine. If Sect Master Qin is in a hurry, you can temporarily stay at the Li family. That way, as long as we find him, we can immediately bring him back. True Emperor Xiongji's complexion stiffened. No one here was a fool. How could they not recognize the word perfunctory? Ancestor Li, this old bastard. His words were beautiful and flawless, but he clearly didn't plan on handing Li Mu over. Sure enough, this matter wasn't as simple as he imagined. If Qin Yu want to find Li Mu, there must be some other reason. And the Li family wouldn't cooperate at all. A soft nail. Qin Yu said, Ancestor Li, is there really no way? His voice was calm. But at this moment, true Emperor Cheonji's heart skipped a beat. He suddenly felt uneasy. He dryly laughed. Sect Master Qin is in a hurry. Ancestrally, why don't you put in some effort? If you personally go, you will definitely be able to find Li Mu. Ancestrally shook his head. It's not that I don't want to, but I can't help. If Sect Master Qin isn't satisfied, I can only express my regret. Qin Yu stood up. Shua. Countless eyes gathered on him. Ancestrally smiled and said, Fuzhou City is indeed far from Xianyang, but for His Majesty, Emperor Qin, you can come here with a thought. Sect Master Qin, let me remind you that the spy system of the Great Qin Empire is operating at full speed to find your traces. So, I advise Sect Master Qin not to be too hot-tempered, or you might hurt yourself. This was a threat. Qin Yu directly turned hostile. Sure enough, the older one was, the more ruthless he was when he turned hostile. He was fast, ruthless, and accurate. He immediately grasped Qin Yu's weakness, making it difficult for him to deal with it. That day, it was the Tower Master who came to save Qin Yu. But this didn't mean that Emperor Qin would really give up. If he had a chance to kill Qin Yu suddenly, would the Tower Master still avenge him? Stop it. Therefore, as long as there was a chance, Emperor Qin would definitely take action. True Emperor Cheonji winked at Qin Yu, indicating that he shouldn't act impulsively, lest the situation become more and more awkward and eventually irreconcilable. Qin Yu sat back down and poured himself a glass of wine. Just when true Emperor Cheonji thought that he had thought it through and decided to temporarily endure and give in, Qin Yu picked up the glass of wine and poured it on the ground. This wine is a toast to the Li family in advance. Chapter 1792. The hall fell deathly silent. True Sovereign Cheonji's eyelids twitched. He had guessed that Qin Yu would do something, but he didn't expect it to be so violent and direct. The meaning behind his actions and his words was self-evident. Ancestrally narrowed his eyes and smiled. Sect Master Qin, I have lived for many years, but this is the first time someone has dared to say such things in front of me. To toast my Li family, that depends on whether or not Sect Master Qin has the qualifications to do so. Otherwise, I can only say that Sect Master Qin has the foresight to pour this cup for himself ahead of time. He couldn't wait any longer. Good heavens, it looked like he was about to shed all pretense of cordiality and fight head-on. True Sovereign Cheonji didn't want to accompany Qin Yu in this madness. He couldn't understand what Qin Yu was thinking. Ancestor Li had already laid out the threat. Emperor Qin was the sharp sword hanging above Qin Yu's head. Once True Sovereign's killing aura erupted, Emperor Qin would instantly sense it and arrive at Tong City the next moment. What happened then? Would the Tower Master come again? Faced with something that could only be saved once. The Tower Master had already saved Qin Yu once. With True Sovereign Cheonji's understanding of the Tower Master, he wouldn't continue to help. To clash with the Li family, that was suicide. Ancestor Li, Sect Master Qin, please calm down. True Sovereign Cheonji said in a low voice. Today's matter isn't anything major. It only involves a junior of the Li family. Moreover, Sect Master Qin is looking for Li Mu because he hopes he can help, not because he wants to harm him. Ancestor Li, Sect Master Qin is anxious and his actions are a bit rash. He doesn't have any hostility towards the Li family, so please bear with him. Everyone should take a step back. There is no need to make things irreparable. Ancestor Li picked up his wine cup and took a sip. I never wanted to make things worse. From the very beginning, I was very easy to talk to. As for Sect Master Qin, perhaps because he suddenly ascended to such a high position, he forgot what it means to be cautious, rational, and respectful. His attitude was very tough. Old thing, he still had the face to say easy to talk to. His skin was thick enough. True Sovereign Cheonji cursed inwardly, but the situation was beyond his control. He turned and looked at Qin Yu. Sect Master Qin, how about we leave Tong City today? Halfway through, he was interrupted by Qin Yu. He looked at Ancestor Li, his face calm, his eyes even calmer. The ancient remnant True Emperor, the master of Dongting, was hiding in the Black Sea. I killed him myself not long ago. Ancestrally said indifferently. Sect leader Qin, are you threatening me? Humph. The Lord of Dongting is nothing in front of me. Qin Yu shook his head. I'm just reminding ancestrally that on the day I killed the Lord of Dongting, God's punishment came to kill me. Ancestrally frowned. What is Sovereign Qin trying to say? It's simple. Qin Yu lifted a hand and pointed at himself. Since I can draw down the heavenly retribution once, I could draw it down a second time. Moreover, it's right here in Tong City, right in this hall. If I can resist heaven's retribution once and not die, then I can resist it a second time. However, I fear that the Li family does not have the means to resist heaven's retribution. Ancestor Li's face stiffened. He stubbornly glared at Qin Yu. You don't have the aura of heavenly retribution on you. Indeed, there isn't. But if I wanted, there will be. Qin Yu was expressionless. Perhaps today, perhaps tomorrow, or perhaps next month. In short, as long as I want to, I can do it. Of course, Ancestrally can also try to invite Sovereign Qin to descend and kill me today. Let's see if I have the means to drag the Li family down with me. True Monarch Xiongji's eyes widened. There was actually such a thing, but upon further thought, it was indeed terrifying. If Qin Yu really drew down God's punishment in the Li family, who knew what other methods he had? After all, Qin Yu was a man who had survived God's punishment unscathed. If the Li family was truly affected by God's punishment, the consequences would be too terrifying. Disregarding everything else besides Ancestor Li, everyone in the Li family would die. Even Ancestor Li himself might not be able to escape. After all, this was God's punishment. True Monarch Xiongji looked at Qin Yu, his heart filled with emotion. They were both at the Emperor realm, so why was Qin Yu so outstanding? He was clearly a great calamity, but he had been played with and turned into a trump card. Ancestor, I heard that Sect Master Qin was here. I had to come back to see him, even if I had to suffer punishment. Please have mercy. A young man ran into the hall amidst miserable cries. Ancestrally snorted coldly. Li Mu, tell me, how did you offend Sect Master Qin to the point of his wrath? Hurry up and apologize. Yes. It's all my fault. Li Mu walked over and bowed deeply. Li Mu greets Sect Master Qin. No matter what I did wrong, please tell me and I will definitely correct it. Ancestrally coughed softly. Sect Master Qin, this junior of the Li family is indeed unruly. This old man has a headache as well. However, his aptitude is not bad, and I have some expectations. If it's possible, I hope Sect Master Qin can have mercy. His tone was calm, and he wore a smile. It was as if the tense scene from before had never happened. Thick skin multiplied by 2. His mental fortitude was amazing. The corner of True Monarch Xiongji's mouth twitched. But to be honest, he felt really good watching this scene. This old bastard Ancestor Li was simply too slippery. Even in front of the Tower Master, he dared to act shamelessly. Humph, to think he would have such a day. Qin Yu filled his cup. Ancestor Li, I have offended you before. Let's drink this cup. Ha, good. Ancestor Li laughed. The two drank to each other. Setting down his cup, Ancestor Li waved his hand. There's nothing else for you to do. You may leave. Li Mu, you stay here and wait for Sect Master Qin to question you. Yes, Ancestor. The Li family disciples turned and left. Although it was relatively calm, their backs were already soaked with cold sweat. Was this the world of the big shots? It was too terrifying. Just now, they had truly taken a trip to the gates of hell. Everyone else retreated. Ancestor Li directly said, Sect Master Qin, do you need me to step aside? Qin Yu nodded. Yes, Ancestor Li. He stood up and looked at Li Mu. Answer me properly. Don't anger Sect Master Qin. Li Mu respectfully bowed. Old Ancestor, don't worry. True Sovereign Xiongji stood up on his own initiative. I will speak with Ancestor Li outside. He was well aware of his own limitations. In the blink of an eye, there was only Qin Yu and Li Mu left in the massive hall. Li Mu, do you know why I came here? Li Mu respectfully said, I'm not willing to hide it from Sect Master Qin, but I have an approximate guess. Tell me. It might involve the southern branch and golden millet realms of the past. Qin Yu said, "You can remove the first word." He leaned forward, his eyes looking down from above. "Now, give me an answer. Just what happened in the southern branch and golden millet realms?" Limu bitterly smiled. "If I tell you, I have no idea whether or not Sect Master Qin will believe me. I won't." Limu's complexion became even more bitter. "But this is the truth." He took a deep breath. "I have no way to continue entering. If Sect Master Qin wants an answer, you'll have to find it yourself." Qin Yu glanced at him. Limu stiffened. "Okay, who?" Limu heaved a sigh of relief. Cold sweat instantly broke out on his forehead, forming a dense layer. He was really afraid that Qin Yu would turn against him. That would be terrible. "I will help Sect Master Qin open the passage now, but whether or not I can go in, I can't guarantee." Qin Yu raised his hand and grabbed Limu. Then, he took a step forward and soared into the sky. "Ancestor Li, I will borrow Limu for a while. If everything goes well, I will personally send him back." Outside the hall, Ancestor Li's face darkened. True Emperor Qiongji coughed. "Ancestor Li, don't worry. Based on my understanding of Qin Yu, he is a man of his word." Just as he was about to take a step forward and leave, Qin Yu's voice suddenly sounded in his ears. "True Emperor Qiongji, you stay in the Li family and wait for my return." True Emperor Qiongji paused and said, "Ancestor Li, it seems that I will have to trouble the Li family for a few days." Letting him stay in the Li family to monitor Ancestor Li was one of the reasons. As for the second reason, of course, he couldn't completely trust him. Ancestor Li snorted angrily. "Sect Master Qin, you are really cautious." True Emperor Qiongji smiled and didn't say anything, but he didn't think so. So what if he is a true emperor? He seems to be high and mighty, but he is not really fearless. Otherwise, Ancestor Li wouldn't have been threatened so much that he almost gave up. It's always good to be cautious. Buzz with a sword cry above Tong City. Qin Yu took Limu and disappeared. In the city, on the sky-supporting parasol tree, a pair of huge half-covered eyes appeared between the thick leaves. The golden eyes looked in the direction where Qin Yu left, flashing with a cold luster. Boom! The space shattered, and Qin Yu stepped out. With a thought, the mountain and river sword appeared, and he raised his hand and thrust it into the mountain peak. Invisible sword aura burst out and instantly covered the surrounding area, isolating this small area. Although this place was the mountain peak, it was hidden among the peaks, and the mountain was relatively low. Unless one was close, it was impossible to detect it. Letting go of Limu, Qin Yu said, "You can start." Limu respectfully nodded. He took a deep breath, and a knuckle-sized stone and a withered branch appeared in each of his hands. He waved his hand, and the stone swelled in the wind. The withered branch sprouted and fell on the stone. In the blink of an eye, it turned into a big tree. "Sect Master Qin, the entrance has been opened. Please do not resist, but I'm not sure whether I can go in or not." Qin Yu closed his eyes. It didn't take long for him to sense a pulling force. With his current cultivation, he could resist it with a thought. But since he knew that this was the way to enter Nank and Golden Millet realms, Qin Yu took the initiative to greet it. Swish the next moment, he appeared in another place. Above his head, there was only a big sun hanging high in the sky with white clouds. Nank descending, Golden Millet dream. These two external objects could actually be pieced together to form such a real world. As expected of the creation of heaven and earth, each had its own magic. Immortal. Look at Immortal. It's really him. Just now he appeared. Qin Yu looked down and glanced at the people on the ground who were shouting and looking at him. "Ah, Immortal saw me. Quickly kneel and ask Immortal to bless me." "Immortal, can you accept me as your disciple?" Swish Qin Yu stepped out and disappeared from sight. Before he could clearly investigate what was happening here, Qin Yu decided to be a shadow. He wouldn't come into contact with anything here, lest there be any unpredictable consequences. In the next moment, Qin Yu appeared in front of the city. He landed on the ground and walked into the city, casually strolling around for half a day. As he walked out of tea house, Qin Yu couldn't help but frown. His eyes revealed a dignified look. "Shua, His figure flashed and disappeared once more. He appeared in this city in an official's office. He found a place where all sorts of books were stored. Chinyu flipped through them for a long time. Then, he placed the book back and let out a light breath. He never thought that he would find the truth so easily. As far as he knew, when Emperor Qin descended and tried to kill him, he didn't seem to have wronged Chinyu. He couldn't help but bitterly smile. This was because in the current Nank and Golden Millet realms, there was only one country, Great Qin. And according to the records that Chinyu flipped through, this Great Qin overlapped with the Great Qin of the Central Desolate Divine Continent in many places. For example, they were both called the State of Qin, imperial capital Xianyang. And most importantly, the order of succession for the throne of Great Qin here was exactly the same as the Great Qin of the Central Desolate Divine Continent. Chinyu would be the first to not believe that this was a coincidence. Was this little meat's doing? Chinyu could only guess this. After all, entering this place back then was her arrangement. Moreover, Chinyu's memories had been concealed for so many years. But why? Could it be that little meat wanted to one day replace the Great Qin of the Central Desolate Divine Continent with the State of Qin in the Nank and Golden Millet realms? Utter nonsense. Absolutely impossible. As he thought of this, Chinyu couldn't help but reveal a dignified expression. Because Emperor Qin had made a move. If it was really useless, if it was really just a dream, why would Emperor Qin have sensed it? And a long time ago, he had come up with the saying, those who cause chaos in Qin are also Qin. No matter how he looked at it, there was a problem. Chinyu took a deep breath and slowly exhaled. He suddenly felt that this dreamlike world wasn't simple. Creak! The door was pushed open. A young man, carrying a lantern, entered from outside. He was very careful. When he saw Chinyu, he froze on the spot. Who are you? Chinyu turned around and looked at the youth in front of him. He was around 13 to 14 years old, and his clothes were shabby. There was a faint familiarity between his eyebrows, as if he had seen him somewhere before. Now, the youth stared at Chinyu. He found it hard to hide the panic in his eyes, but he forced himself to remain calm. When he entered, Chinyu hadn't sensed him ahead of time. This clearly wasn't right. It was as if he was destined to see this youth tonight. The strange feeling grew heavier and heavier. Chinyu said, "What is your name?" The youth hesitated. Chun Shi. Chinyu thought for a moment. Then, he took a step back and vanished from sight. Chun Shi jumped in fright. But soon, he covered his mouth, not daring to make a sound. This wasn't a place where a bastard son like him had the qualifications to enter. If he was discovered, he would be beaten half to death. But that person just now, was he a legendary immortal? He came without a shadow and left without a trace. He was even more fierce than in the stories. Chunshi revealed a look of annoyance. He hadn't grasped the chance just now. If he could take this person as his master, how wonderful would that be? As the youth was immersed in regret, Qin had already arrived at the land of the Great Qin Empire. At the base of Xiaoliang Mountain, Ox Village. This was the ancestral land of the royal family and also the tomb of the founding ancestor. This place was heavily guarded, and not even a bird could fly in. But to Qinyu, this was a place where no one could stop him. Now he was standing at the base of Xiaoliang Mountain, looking at the mountain village from afar. There were many places that matched up with the scenes in his memory. A dream had actually continued to this day, and because of this, he had even provoked the Great Qin Empire. Qinyu felt that this was the most absurd and yet incomparably powerful dream in the world. His eyes turned and fell on a place. There, Qinyu could feel a familiar aura. It was Mimi. Besides that, there seemed to be something else. But without a doubt, everything here was related to her. It was true. Thinking about it, Qinyu didn't directly investigate this place. Rather, he wanted to see someone first, Taoist cloudy mist. Qinyu turned and walked up Xiaoliang Mountain. Through the ancient texts, he determined that every Qin emperor had to receive the approval of the imperial scholar before they ascended to the throne. And the imperial scholar was Taoist cloudy mist. Only after he nodded could he be bestowed a name and smoothly inherit the throne. The Qin Empire's inheritance was similar to the Central Desolate Qin Empires. That Taoist cloudy mist was clearly a crucial step. Whether this person's existence was intentional or not, as long as he investigated him, he could solve all the mysteries. As he walked up the mountain, there were layers upon layers of guards. But none of them were able to detect Qin Yu's tracks. Even if he directly walked past the great Qin guards, they wouldn't be able to sense him. Soon, Qin Yu arrived at the mountainside, outside the Xiaoyang monastery. After looking around, he stepped out and appeared within the monastery. The old ancestor will be speaking about the Tao today. We cannot be late. Let's go, let's go. This is the greatest opportunity we've had in our cultivation. If we can perceive a bit of it today, we will surely benefit endlessly. A group of Taoists revealed excited expressions as they hurried towards the main hall. Qin Yu stepped forward and followed. Chapter 1793. The old Taoist cloudy mist had now become a publicly recognized immortal in the Qin Empire. Since the founding of the Qin Empire, he had lived until now. This was a miracle that had never happened before. It was because of this that he was conferred the title of imperial teacher by the Qin Empire 2,000 years ago. The only puzzling thing was that the imperial teacher always lived in seclusion in Xiaoyang Mountain and never left. Some people tried to use the imperial teacher to have other thoughts, such as replacing the Qin family and becoming the ruler of the world. But without surprise, these people all died in the end. The imperial teacher used his actions to express his attitude and obtain the complete trust of the Qin Empire. Some people said that the imperial teacher sealed himself in Xiaoyang Mountain because he had an agreement with the Qin Empire to protect the ancestral land of the Qin Empire and protect the destiny of the Qin Empire. But there was no answer to these speculations. In the main hall, Taoist cloudy mist sat in the highest position. Below him, all the cultivators had gathered. Their eyes were filled with reverence and respect. There were a few bright yellow dots mixed in, making them particularly striking. Qin Yu looked down. The one in bright yellow was a middle-aged man in his 40s. He had a dignified bearing. Behind him were two beautiful women, and each of them had a teenager with them. From these three people, Qin Yu could feel a familiar and intimate feeling. It wasn't strong, but it truly existed. Guessing their identities, Qin Yu couldn't help but reveal a strange expression. Were they his descendants? Standing in a corner of the hall, Qin Yu fell into deep thought. No one discovered that there was an uninvited guest in the hall today. The speech ended. Taoist cloudy mist waved his hand, and everyone respectfully excused themselves, their expressions intoxicated. They felt that the old ancestor's Tao art was mysterious and peerless. Every word he spoke was filled with deep meaning, causing one to think deeply. The 5 people from the royal family also bowed, incomparably respectful towards the imperial teacher. Your Majesty Qin Emperor, please wait a moment in the side hall. Okay. The current Qin Emperor cupped his hands together and left. Behind him, the 2 women and 2 youths revealed nervous expressions. The imperial teacher was about to make a decision. Soon, everyone in the hall left. Taoist cloudy mist stood up and walked down from his high seat. He faced a corner of the hall and respectfully bowed. Cloudy mist greets the Lord. After a brief pause, space surged and Qin Yu's figure appeared. He said with surprise, "You can sense my existence?" Taoist cloudy mist looked at the completely unfamiliar face in front of him. But his feeling wasn't wrong. His tone became even more respectful. "My cultivation is low, so I cannot sense your presence. But in the past, someone gave me a cultivation method. After I cultivated it to a high level, I was able to form a mark." He flipped his hand, and a ball of runes appeared in his palm. "This lowly Taoist has been waiting here for many years. My lord, you have finally come." As soon as Qin Yu saw those lines, he was able to determine that Taoist cloudy mist had been arranged by Misty. The possibility of this being a trap could also be eliminated. After some thought, he said, "Yunwu, what do you want to tell me about the Qin state?" Taoist cloudy mist shook his head. "I'm just following the orders of my superiors. I've been taking care of the Qin family until now. I'm not clear about the affairs of the Qin state." He wasn't lying. This was because as soon as Qin Yu saw those lines, he had already grasped it. That was the information Misty had left for him. As soon as he saw it, he could decipher it and grasp it in his hands. Everything about Taoist cloudy mist could be seen with a single glance. Did Emperor Qin's family come here for the inheritance of the throne? Yes. Qin Yu said, "I will go with you." He wanted to personally witness Taoist cloudy mist choose the new emperor of Great Qin. He wanted to see if there was anything fishy going on. Taoist cloudy mist respectfully bowed. Yes. Side hall. Emperor Qin's family was waiting here. Two beautiful women had flushed red faces, and their clothes were soaked with sweat. Today, the imperial scholar had spoken. The inheritance of the throne had been established. The future master of Great Qin was about to be born. Their sons both had the talent to become emperors. But there was only one emperor. Whoever's son sat on the throne would rule the world, and they would become the most respected women in the world. Emperor Qin frowned. In front of the imperial scholar, you cannot be disrespectful. You must control yourselves so that you don't lose face for the royal family. Yes, your majesty. The two noble women revealed looks of panic. Emperor Qin's frown deepened. He didn't think much of these two women, but their sons did indeed have outstanding talent. His eyes swept over the two calm princes. Emperor Qin's frown relaxed, and a trace of relief appeared in his eyes. The great Qin emperor chose not to look at one's background, but only at one's quality. At this time, the doors to the hall opened and Taoist cloudy mist stepped in. Emperor Qin quickly stood up and bowed. Imperial scholar. But just as he finished speaking, he paused. This was because there was someone following behind Taoist cloudy mist. He was unfamiliar. He had never seen or heard of such a person at Clear Brightness Monastery. But for some unknown reason, when Emperor Qin saw this person, he couldn't help but feel a bit of awe. This caused the Emperor of the world to frown, his suspicions rising in his heart. Taoist cloudy mist waved his hand. Emperor Qin, there is no need to be so polite. This is an honored guest of Clear Brightness Monastery. I invited him here to bear witness. With these words, everyone's eyes fell on Qin Yu. Witness of the emperor's inheritance. Just this point alone was enough to show just how valuable Qin Yu's status was. Emperor Qin cupped his hands together and bowed. I'll have to trouble this immortal master. The two women and the youth bowed together. Qin Yu nodded. Without saying anything, he found a place to sit down. Before he came, he had already made an agreement with Taoist cloudy mist that Qin Yu wouldn't interfere in this matter. They could pretend that he didn't exist. Taoist cloudy mist said, Your Majesty Emperor Qin, please allow the two princes to come forward. The two women immediately had nervous expressions. Emperor Qin waved his hand. Go to the side of the imperial scholar. The two teenage princes arrived in front of him. Their eyes were filled with longing as they respectfully bowed. Greetings, imperial scholar. Taoist cloudy mist nodded. He reached out and grabbed one person each, having them stand on his left and right. He seemed to have made a decision and was about to make it. But at this time, Taoist cloudy mist suddenly looked at him. My lord, I suddenly feel that you should make a decision today. Who do you want to choose to inherit the great Qin emperor's position? Qin Yu frowned. Emperor Qin and the two women revealed shocked expressions. This wasn't just because Taoist cloudy mist wanted Qin Yu to decide who would inherit the throne, but also because he had called him my lord. It had to be known that the imperial scholar was a legend in the cultivation world of the great Qin Empire. He was publicly recognized as the strongest person in the world, and no one could hope to catch up to him. But he actually called him my lord and was extremely respectful towards the person in front of him. If they hadn't seen it with their own eyes, they wouldn't have believed it. And because of this, Emperor Qin and the two women remained silent. An existence that could be called my lord by the imperial scholar was, of course, qualified to participate in the matter of the great Qin emperor's position. My lord, there's no need to be angry. I have a ball of paper in each of my hands. Inside are different names for the two of them. Whichever one you choose, he will have a new name. Qin Yu didn't say anything. He understood what Taoist cloudy mist meant. He wanted Qin Yu to decide for himself the future of the great Qin Empire. If his choice was different from the Great Qin Empire in the Middle Wilderness, then the indescribable relationship between the Great Qin Empire and the Great Qin Empire in the Middle Wilderness might be severed. But if it was still the same, then it was fate. Or it could be said that Qin Yu couldn't escape his fate. He would have to end things with the Great Qin Empire in the Middle Wilderness. In the side hall, there was silence. The two royal youths were held by Daoist cloudy mist. They stared at Qin Yu with wide eyes. They were nervous and filled with anticipation. Qin Yu raised his hand and pointed. Daoist cloudy mist pulled the youth on the left. Open the ball of paper in your hand and read it out. Ah, yes. The youth, who was shocked by this great surprise, opened the ball of paper. Wu. The imperial scholar nodded and said, Then, the next Emperor Qin will be Qin Wuzong. Qin Yu's heart shook. Qin Wuzong. It was Qin Wuzong. Because the current Emperor Qin was Qin Wuzong. He looked up at the current Emperor Qin. You are Qin Suzong? Emperor Qin respectfully said, Yes. The two Qin empires overlapped once again. Qin Yu raised his hand, and the other royal youth landed beside him. He took the ball of paper and opened it. Qin Yu's eyes fell. Xian. If he chose the royal youth on the right, then the new Emperor Qin would be Qin Xuanzong. This would change the future. Something's wrong. Qin Yu lowered his head and stared at the ball of paper in his hand. The word Xian in his eyes suddenly became blurry. In the next moment, it turned into the word Wu. Qin Yu immediately understood. Two royal youths, two paper balls. No matter which one he chose, the result would be the same. Qin Wuzong. And this wasn't because of Daoist cloudy mist tricks, but because there was an invisible interfering strength in this world. As Qin Yu looked at the changing characters, he could faintly sense the source of this strength. Shua. He took a step forwards and vanished from sight. In the next moment, he appeared in the Qin Empire's Emperor Tomb. In front of him was a tomb that had been reinforced and renovated. This was the one that had been conferred the title of the founding ancestor of the Qin Empire. And when Qin Yu was at the foot of Little Liang Mountain, this was the place that he had sensed the strength that interfered with the inheritance of the throne also came from here. Who dares to trespass into the Emperor Tomb? Angry roars sounded out. Someone come, take him down. Draw back immediately. Whoosh, whoosh, with the sound of breaking air, figures howled out. Qin Yu flicked his sleeves, and the world suddenly froze. Everything that approached the Emperor Tomb fell into a state of stillness. He took a deep breath and lifted a hand. The Emperor Tomb in front of him instantly disintegrated, revealing a coffin buried deep underground. Qin Yu walked forwards and pushed open the coffin. There was no corpse inside, only some funerary objects. A common-looking bamboo slip was among them. Qin Yu reached out a hand and took the bamboo slip. A meaty voice sounded out in his mind. Qin Yu, since you even dug up your own grave, it is clear that you already know what happened here. But I guarantee you that none of this was done by me, but because of your own reasons. After looking at the bamboo slip, put it back. There are some things that have already begun, and there is no turning back. Either you brace yourself and continue, or you die a horrible death. As for this bamboo slip, it is a path of retreat that I left for you. You must watch it carefully, and also be careful of Limu. That boy isn't normal. Don't fall into his schemes. Qin Yu lowered his head, and his eyes fell onto the bamboo slip. Bang! His mind shook. In the skies above the Emperor Tomb, winds began to rise and clouds began to gather. The contents of the bamboo slip were very simple. It was just a series of words connected together. The last two words were solemn and martial. Looking further up, every word matched up with the Great Qin Empire's inheritance and the title of the new emperor. In Qin Yu's mind, some new memories suddenly appeared. This bamboo slip was something that belonged to Li Ruhua. She had given it to him. At first, there were only some messy lines on it without any words. On a certain afternoon, he had taught his son and daughter how to read and had personally carved these words. His son was called Qin Anan. His daughter was called Qin Qingqing. Bang! At this moment, raging waves rose up in Qin Yu's heart. Qin Qingqing, Qin Anan. Was this another coincidence? Or could it be said that it was an unavoidable fate? Rumble, rumble. In the skies above the Emperor tomb, countless clouds gathered, instantly covering the skies and plunging the world into darkness. Lightning exploded, baring its fangs and brandishing its claws in the clouds, roaring and wreaking havoc. Outside, mountain summit. Above Nangstone, below yellow millet wood. Limu opened his eyes and looked at Qin Yu across from him. He hadn't lied before. After the great Qin Empire passed on for 10 generations, although he was still the master of Nank and yellow millet wood, he had no way of entering again. But this didn't mean that Li Mu had completely lost his sense of Nank and yellow millet wood. On the contrary, he had been patiently waiting for a perfect opportunity. And today, that opportunity had finally arrived. Qin Yu had entered Nank and yellow millet wood once more. Moreover, he had opened the tomb and obtained the bamboo slip that he could clearly sense but didn't dare to touch. Phoenix, Li Mu roared. Tong City, atop the parasol tree. With a cry, the phoenix soared into the skies. It shook the void and submerged itself into the tree. Li family. Ancestor Li's eyes flashed open. A sharp light flashed in them. Shua. In the next moment, he appeared in front of true sovereign Qiongji. Ancestor Li, where did the phoenix go? Ancestor Li said, I don't know either. True sovereign Qiongji coldly snorted. I still have matters to attend to. Farewell. Ancestor Li lifted a hand and pointed. Space instantly froze. The entire Li residence and even Tong City's aura instantly fused together with him. This was undoubtedly the home field's prestige. True sovereign Qiongji, I recently cultivated a new supernatural power. How about we compare notes and give me some advice? Ancestor Li, true sovereign Qiongji roared. I advise you not to act recklessly. Your Li family might not be able to withstand the consequences. Ancestor Li smiled. I don't understand true sovereign Qiongji's words. Let's compare notes. Compare notes, my ass. True sovereign Qiongji roared and punched out. The Li family's guardian divine beast phoenix suddenly left. Ancestor Li came directly to keep him here. It was impossible to say that there was no problem. Obviously, the Li family was scheming against Qin Yu. They had even prepared for this before they came. In other words, everything that happened after they came to Tong City was within the Li family's calculations. Damn it! True sovereign Qiongji's anger soared to the skies. Once something happened to Qin Yu, he wouldn't have a good ending either. The hidden danger of his vitality being annihilated still existed in his body. Boom! The two true sovereigns fought. The entire Tong City shook at this moment. Countless people widened their eyes in horror. They looked in the direction of the Li family, not knowing what had happened. But the terrifying aura indicated everything. This was a battle between true sovereigns. The great emperor's capital, Xianyang. In the imperial palace, Qin Emperor opened his eyes, a sharp light surging in them. He stood up and took a step. Shua. He disappeared without a trace. In the next moment, Qin Emperor's figure appeared in the skies above Tong City. He looked down at the Li family. True sovereign Qiongji, who was in a fierce battle, felt his heart shrink. Qin Emperor. Chapter 1794. Ancestor Li cupped his hands. Greetings, Emperor Qin. Qin Huang asked, Where is Qin Yu? Sect Master Qin, capture my disciple, Li Mu. I don't know where he is now. However, Li Mu's aura is connected to the phoenix. If Emperor Qin finds the phoenix, he will find Sect Master Qin. Emperor Qin, Qiongji roared. The Tower Master made a deal with Qin Yu that is yet to be completed. Emperor Qin said lightly, I appeared here, but the Tower Master did not. That is the answer. He turned and disappeared. Qiongji's heart sank. What Emperor Qin said was the truth. The Tower Master must have sensed what happened in Tong City. The fact that he didn't do anything was a sign of respect to the Qin Emperor. Protecting Qin Yu could not be done twice. Otherwise, the great Qin Empire and the 13th Tower would break off relations and cause a catastrophe. Today's calamity could only be overcome by himself. But could he do it? Despair appeared in Xiongji's eyes. He didn't care about Qin Yu's life or death. But if Qin Yu died, he would most likely die as well. A true emperor falling to such a state was the most tragic thing in the world. Above the Nank stone, under the yellow beam wood, the mountain river's sword stabbed into the mountain suddenly vibrated, and a majestic sword aura erupted. The next moment, space shook violently, and the phoenix flew out with a cry. Li Mu stood up and looked at the mountain river sword. "Sir, please show yourself." Swish, there was a flash of light, and Bai Feifei walked out with a frown, her face cold. "Li Mu, how dare you?" Li Mu smiled and said, "Since I dare to face a long-lived species, I do have some guts. But since I dare to stand here, I came prepared. I will have to offend you." He raised his hand and threw out a talisman. Heaven's sealing talisman. Bai Feifei's eyes widened. "You are the reincarnation of an ancient, true spirit." The talisman burned, and an invisible sealing power enveloped Bai Feifei. At the same time, it suppressed the mountain river sword and Qin Yu. The sword aura isolation disappeared. The phoenix flew in and landed next to Li Mu, its golden eyes cold. Li Mu reached out to touch its feathers and said, "Your Excellency is indeed a long-lived species. You know many secrets of heaven and earth. I have no choice today. Please forgive me." His words were polite, but that was all. Li Mu turned to look at Qin Yu, a sharp light surging in his eyes. Even though he was the reincarnation of a true spirit and was born with great destiny, the path of cultivation was not a smooth one. In particular, the threshold of longevity was much more difficult than that of other living beings. After obtaining the two treasures, the Nank stone and the yellow beam wood, Li Mu had a new choice. Using the dream world as the foundation, he could turn it into reality. Between reality and illusion, he could break through his bottleneck and step into the eternal realm. However, it was extremely difficult to turn an illusory world into reality. Li Mu had waited for many years. It was not until Qin Yu entered that things changed. As the owner of the treasures, he actually had no way of entering and exiting the Nank and Golden Millet realms. After this happened, Li Mu was shocked at first, then delighted. He was very sure that the opportunity he had been waiting for was about to arrive. Therefore, he stayed in Tong City and didn't go anywhere. He just waited for Qin Yu to come to him. And now, just as he had expected, he had succeeded. Qin Yu entered the Nank and Golden Millet realms again. As long as he left his soul in them, he could use a secret method to make Qin Yu forget everything in the outside world and merge with the Qin Yu of the past. At that time, with the help of the relationship between the great Qin in this world and the great Qin in the outside world, and with Qin Yu as the medium, there was a chance to turn it into reality. Then, longevity was right in front of him. Just one more step. The last step. Li Mu turned around and looked at the phoenix beside him. "When I finish the secret method, you release your aura and lead Qin Huang here." Qin Yu wanted to kill him, but he wouldn't do it himself. It was the best way to leave it to Qin Huang. Moreover, this was also the most critical step in the whole secret method ceremony. Qin Huang had to kill Qin Yu and break the sentence. He who disturbs the Qin dynasty is also Qin. The phoenix nodded. "Lend me your cultivation." Li Mu reached out and grabbed it. The phoenix cried, and a phantom flew out of its body and merged into Li Mu's. Bang! He sat down cross-legged and raised a finger to touch between his eyebrows. As if slamming down a door, he forcefully broke through the blockade of the Nank and Golden Millet realms. Li Mu broke in. In the next moment, his figure appeared at the foot of Xiaoyang Mountain. With a glance, Li Mu took a step and entered the great Qin Emperor's mausoleum. In front of the tomb, Qin Yu frowned and turned his head. Li Mu cupped his hands together. "Sect Master Qin, why did you come here?" Li Mu said, "To help Sect Master Qin and the Tomb Master merge into one, to help me solidify this world and open up the road to longevity." Qin Yu raised a hand and punched out. Space twisted and a terrifying strength erupted, causing it to crack and shatter. Li Mu didn't move at all, but before the spatial cracks could approach him, they disappeared. "It's useless." The Nank and Golden Millet realms are my world. Here, I'm the one who makes the rules and controls them. Sect Master Qin, go on your way. He flicked his sleeves, and the entire Great Qin Emperor's mausoleum instantly distorted and disappeared, turning into a black vortex. And at the center of the vortex was the tomb that Qin Yu had opened. A powerful, devouring force erupted from within, locking onto Qin Yu and wanting to pull him in. Just as Li Mu said, he was now the ruler of this world. Moreover, he had borrowed the Phoenix's cultivation. He was simply invincible. Even Qin Yu couldn't resist it. It could be said that Li Mu's plan was very successful, almost perfect. The cooperation between him and Ancestor Li was also flawless, without the slightest flaw. But the tragedy was that Qin Yu wasn't the only one playing chess with Li Mu. The Nank and Golden Millet realms were sent by Little Meaty, and it seemed that she had already seen through Li Mu's background. Thus, when the vortex appeared and the devouring force erupted from the tomb, the special pattern that Taoist cloudy mist had shown him automatically appeared in Qin Yu's mind. In an instant, Qin Yu understood everything. My Meaty is indeed so sharp. She had already calculated everything in the past. Qin Yu took a deep breath and stepped forward. Not only did he not resist, but he took the initiative to step into the vortex. Rumble, the entire vortex's rotation speed skyrocketed. There was an earth-shattering sound as if a river was being sucked in. Li Mu frowned, and a chill appeared in his eyes. Qin Yu's performance was beyond his expectations. He actually stepped into the vortex on his own initiative and fused with the Qin Yu of this world. Did he discover that he had fallen into a hopeless situation and was powerless to resist? So he chose to risk his life and try to seize the initiative in the fusion? Or there were other reasons? Li Mu focused his senses, but found nothing. Because everything was going smoothly and the fusion of the two Qin Yes was about to be completed. Rumble, above his head, winds surged and thunder roared. But at the same time, a great sun hung high in the sky and a bright moon appeared. Within the Nank and Golden Millet realms, strange phenomena occurred one after another. Swish, Taoist cloudy mist flew outside the imperial tomb, but didn't dare to take another step forward. The world in front of him had already turned into chaos. An extremely terrifying aura was released from it. Imperial Tutor, what happened? Qin Shirwang followed closely behind. His face was heavy. Taoist cloudy mist said, "Your Majesty, there's no need to worry. Today is the lucky chance of the great Qin." A smile appeared on his face. Looking up at the wind and thunder and the sun and moon hanging in the sky, Taoist cloudy mist murmured, "The future of the great Qin is decided." Li Mu's eyes burst with a bright light. The fusion of the two Qin Yes was completed. He took a deep breath and waved his sleeves. Swoosh! The vortex directly dissipated, leaving only darkness. "Qin Yu," he shouted in a low voice. A figure walked out of the darkness. It was Qin Yu. The two of them looked at each other. Li Mu's face changed dramatically. "Impossible, are you still you?" The secret method had been completed. As the ruler of this world, everything was within his perception. There was absolutely nothing that could be hidden from him. At a glance, he could see that Qin Yu had not lost his memory of the outside world. "Li Mu, you're not qualified to plot against me." Qin Yu sneered and took a step forward. Boom! The space shook violently, and a great wave was set off. Li Mu's face changed dramatically because he found that he had lost the ability to control heaven and earth. Bang! With a loud sound, he was sent flying. In the outside world, puff! Li Mu spat out a mouthful of blood. Blood also oozed out of his eyes and nose. He suddenly opened his eyes, his face full of shock and anger. "Phoenix, let's go." But it was already too late. On the other side, Bai Fei, who was being suppressed by the heaven's sealing talisman, suddenly raised her hand and clenched it. Boom! An invisible force directly suppressed the phoenix. This was the second accident. Li Mu's face paled. He could not understand how Bai Fei could escape the suppression of the heaven sealing talisman. This was a treasure that the ancient true spirit had obtained through a transaction with heaven and earth to suppress the long-lived species. The phoenix angrily cried, but no matter how it struggled, it could not escape. Qin Yu opened his eyes and raised his hand. The mountain and river sword appeared in his hand, and he slashed down. Master Qin, spare me. I am willing to serve you. The sword did not weaken, and it slashed down. Puff! Li Mu's head was separated from his body. A bit of light of true spirit flew out, and a phantom appeared, glaring at Qin Yu with hatred. But soon, the resentment in the figure's eyes turned into fear. I am an ancient true spirit, born with heaven and earth. How can you kill me? Who are you? Who the hell are you? Qin Yu remained silent. He coldly watched from the sidelines, watching as the light of true spirit dissipated and then perished. The phoenix was trembling. Its golden eyes were full of hatred. But more than that, there was unconcealable fear. If he could kill an ancient true spirit with a single strike, he could naturally kill it. The so-called nirvana of a phoenix could indeed bring the dead back to life, but Qin Yu would not give it the chance. Submit or die. The phoenix struggled for a moment, then lowered its head. Puff! The mountain and river sword instantly pierced through its head. Bai Fei Fei, don't let it release any aura. Bai Fei Fei licked her lips. Of course, don't worry, my lord. She instantly pounced, her entire body like a shadow, entering the phoenix's body through Qin Yu's wound. Its enormous body instantly fell to the ground, and its gorgeous feathers instantly lost their luster. Qin Yu closed his eyes. Swoosh! His figure reappeared in the Nank and Golden Millet realms. No, it was a bit inappropriate to call it that now. To be more precise, it was his great Qin. Chapter 1795. Ox Village, Great Qin Imperial Mausoleum. Qin Yu's thoughts stirred, and everything in front of him returned to normal. The tomb was sealed up, as if nothing had happened just now. He turned around and looked behind him. Daoist cloudy mist flew over and bowed. Greetings, my lord. Qin Yu said, You're about to die. Daoist cloudy mist nodded. For me to be able to live to this day, it is all thanks to that person from back then. Otherwise, I would have long since turned into a pile of yellow earth. I have no regrets in this life. He looked at Qin Yu, his lips moving as if he wanted to say something. Qin Yu said, She's not here. Daoist cloudy mist's eyes darkened. He bowed. This poor Daoist was asking too much. My lord, please don't blame me. He got up and breathed out as he said, I'm about to die, but Great Qin cannot do without an imperial advisor. This is up to Sir to decide. A youth's face suddenly appeared in Qin Yu's mind. His heart shook. He suddenly realized where the sense of familiarity he felt earlier came from. After hesitating for a moment, Qin Yu said, Come with me. With a flick of his sleeve, he wrapped up Daoist cloudy mist, took a step forward, and the two of them disappeared. When he reappeared, he was already in a city. Qin Yu stepped forwards. Daoist cloudy mist silently followed. Soon, the two of them arrived outside a steward's mansion. There is a young man in this mansion named Chen Shi. Take him as a disciple and nurture him carefully before you die. He will become Great Qin's second imperial teacher. Daoist cloudy mist bowed. Yes, my lord. Thinking for a moment, Qin Yu said, Before you die, I will return. I will bring you away from this place and let you see the true world. Daoist cloudy mist revealed a smile. Thank you, my lord. Qin Yu turned and left. Shua, beneath the yellow millet tree on Nank Rock, he opened his eyes. The phoenix across from him had already withered into a dried corpse. Bai Fei Fei was picking her teeth when she stood up and bowed. My lord, it's really great to be by your side. Eating a phoenix was very beneficial to her. Qin Yu said, Let's go. Sensing the seriousness in his voice, Bai Fei Fei nodded in agreement. Shua, the Nank Stone and Yellow Liang wood had disappeared. Bai Fei Fei's expression was calm, and she was not at all surprised by this. Now that Li Mu and the phoenix were dead, the masters of the Nank and the Golden Millet realms naturally changed. However, Qin Yu's attitude, it seemed that this matter was true. This was the crux of his relationship with Great Qin. Shua, Bai Feifei returned to Qin Yu's body. He took a step forward and disappeared. At the same time, the Qin Emperor, who was sensing with his eyes closed in a distant place, suddenly opened his eyes. Bang! Wherever he went, the space instantly shattered, and a violent aura swept out. Qin Yu! He gritted his teeth and growled, his eyes filled with killing intent. As the ruler of Great Qin, Qin Emperor could clearly sense the slight changes between him and Great Qin. Just now, the Qin Emperor was on high alert. He had sensed the tremor of the fate of the nation. Even though it only lasted for an instant, this was something that had never happened in countless years. This meant that a crisis that could shake Great Qin's fate had truly appeared. And this crisis came from Qin Yu. Qin Huang's face sank. He felt some regret. That day, he didn't care about the consequences and fought with the Tower Master, wanting to kill him on the spot. He couldn't wait any longer. As long as he could find Qin Yu, he would use thunderous methods to kill him. But today, he clearly didn't have a chance. The Li family was truly trash. Taking a deep breath, Qin Emperor's figure vanished. True Sovereign Xiongji's face was pale. He looked around blankly, his expression sorrowful. He was about to die. As a solemn, true sovereign, especially as an ancient, vicious beast, his lifespan was extremely long, second only to eternal realm beings. But life and death wasn't something he could control. Suddenly, true Sovereign Xiongji's complexion changed. In the next moment, space shook and Qin Yu walked out. Sect Master Qin. True Sovereign Xiongji was overjoyed. He hurried forward. You're fine. Qin Yu certainly knew that Xiongji was overjoyed because he could survive. It had nothing to do with him. With a calm expression, he said, Of course I'm fine. He raised a hand to stop true Sovereign Xiongji from speaking. I have a question. How much do you know about the Imperial Preceptor? True Sovereign Xiongji was a bit puzzled, but he still said, I know a bit. After all, the Imperial Preceptor is one of the strongest true sovereigns in the world. What is his name? This I really don't know. True Sovereign Xiongji thought for a moment. The Tower Master should know. Then asked the Tower Master. Qin Yu looked at True Sovereign Xiongji. Lead the way. We will go to the 13th floor. True Sovereign Xiongji nodded. All right. At this time, a phantom appeared in the air. It lightly said, There is no need to go. I can tell Sect Master Qin now. True Sovereign Xiongji bowed. Greetings, Tower Master. Qin Yu said, Tower Master, please speak. The Tower Master Phantom looked at Qin Yu, a deep look in his eyes. The Imperial Preceptor's name is Chun Shi. Qin Yu's heart shook. It really was like this. Qin Yu maintained his composure. He cupped his hands together. Thank you, Tower Master. The Tower Master said, Before this, when Sect Master Qin faced danger, can you blame me for not appearing? Qin Yu said, I know what it means to have a sense of propriety. Tower Master has already appeared to save me once. If I were to fall into a perilous situation again, that would be my own problem. Very good. The Tower Master Phantom nodded. Sect Master Qin is a smart person. I will wait for your good news. Schwa, like this, he left. Qin Yu was silent. Thoughts wildly tumbled in his mind. After a long time, he took a deep breath and slowly suppressed it. He looked up at the world. It wasn't any different from before, but in Qin Yu's perception, there were some changes. The world of the Great Qin was the world of Sovereign Qin. But now, there was a connection between it and him. Sect Master Qin, where do we go next? True Sovereign Xiongji asked. The Tower Master's words sounded polite, but they were clearly urging him. He didn't want to incur the Tower Master's dissatisfaction. But unfortunately, he couldn't provoke Qin Yu. Qin Yu said, I have some matters to attend to. True Sovereign Xiongji, go to Swallow Mountain. Once you're done, I will come find you. This. True Sovereign Xiongji revealed an awkward expression. Schwa. Qin Yu left. Whether it was the Imperial Preceptor Chun Shi or the connection between him and the Great Qin, everything had been confirmed. The relationship between Qin Yu and the Great Qin had been thoroughly opposed. There was no possibility of reconciliation. In other words, if he wanted to live, he could only replace it. In this world, There would only be a single great Qin, a great Qin that belonged to him. Otherwise, he would undoubtedly die. And this was not something that could be achieved with just the grandeur and golden millet realms, even if they were becoming reality. From an illusion, they would become a true world. The foundation of the countries of the Central Desolate was their divine kingdoms, where the fate of the country was gathered. Now, what Qin Yu needed to do was to fuse his divine kingdom with the great Qin. But his divine kingdom wasn't here. Shua, Qin Yu's figure appeared outside Jade Gate Pass, on star-sifting mountain. The fisherman sighed and walked out, a bitter expression on his face. Sect Master Qin, you have already killed the master of the cave court. Are you going to kill me too? Qin Yu said, I didn't come here to kill. He pointed, I want to go to the Western Desolate. How can I not cause a commotion? The fisherman relaxed and hurriedly said, the Central Desolate and the 8 Desolate regions have signed a contract. Emperor Realm cultivators cannot casually enter, otherwise they will be detected by the contract. My ancient lineage has always been chased by the Great Qin. It is common for us to flee to other desolate regions to avoid calamity. I do know some passageways. He had an awkward expression, but these passageways are the greatest secret of the ancient remnant. Once they are leaked, there will be serious consequences. Qin Yu was expressionless. There is no reason for you not to know the relationship between my sect and the Great Qin. I have no need to help the Great Qin. Therefore, it is very likely that I will interpret these words as you brushing me off. He lifted his hand, and the mountain and river sword appeared. Sword aura surged. Of course, fisherman, you can bet that I won't dare to kill you. After all, Emperor Qin is definitely looking for me right now. The fisherman took a step back and clenched his teeth. Fine, I will tell you. Soon, Qin Yu stepped into the sea of clouds and disappeared. Who? The fisherman let out a long breath. His face was gloomy, but there was also a bit of fear in his eyes. When Qin Yu raised his sword just now, he had felt fear from the bottom of his heart. Originally, he was relying on the fact that Qin Yu didn't dare to attack him to bargain. At the very least, he wanted to obtain a promise from Qin Yu that he wouldn't target the ancient remnant. But when Qin Yu took out his sword, he decisively gave up on this idea. Qin Yu had become even more terrifying than before. Just what had happened to him in such a short period of time? Within Jade Gate Pass, in an ordinary residence, Qin Yu pushed open the door and walked in. He arrived beneath a large tree in the courtyard. He looked up and saw a common-looking bird hole on the tree trunk. This was one of the passages that the ancient remnant used to escape to the outside world. If it weren't for the fisherman personally saying this, he wouldn't have been able to sense it. Of course, when he arrived in the courtyard and saw the bird hole, Qin Yu was able to determine that the fisherman wasn't lying. The ancient remnant were indeed a centipede that died, but didn't fall down. Even after being chased by the Great Qin for so many years, their background was still deep. At the very least, this passage in front of him couldn't have been constructed with ordinary methods. Qin Yu's thoughts stirred. The aura within the courtyard was isolated. With a flick of his sleeves, the bird hole instantly expanded until it could accommodate a person. Thinking for a moment, the purple moon and blue sun revolved within his soul space. The sun and moon force field immediately spread out, covering Qin Yu within. Qin Yu was well aware that a connection had already been formed between him and the Great Qin. Emperor Qin must have realized this. He absolutely wouldn't allow Qin Yu to live any longer. Once he was exposed, he would be hunted down by Emperor Qin. Unless Qin Yu used the strength of the little blue lamp or Her Excellency ruler, he would undoubtedly die. There was no need to discuss the problem of the little blue lamp any further. As for Her Excellency ruler, she had already taken action once, so the chances of her descending again were extremely small. Thus, Qin Yu had to be careful. With a step forward, his figure instantly vanished. The ancient remnant's passage wasn't a straight line. Rather, it was like some sort of root system buried deep underground. It twisted and turned. Qin Yu couldn't teleport inside. If he wasn't careful, he might destroy the passage and expose himself. Luckily, this passage wasn't long. Or it could be said that the space inside was compressed by a formidable supernatural ability. Soon, Qin heard the sound of crashing waves. As expected, he soon reached the end of the passage. Qin stepped out. In front of him was a raging sea, incomparably black and extremely cold. Where was this place? Qin looked up. Even the dark seawater couldn't obstruct his vision. He released his divine sense. In an instant, Qin knew where he was. The cold sea of the abyss. In the past, he had returned to the vast Yang world from here. At the end of this passage was the southwest desolate region's broken world. The ancient remnant had truly hidden themselves deeply. They also controlled a passage that led to the broken world. It was likely that the ancient remnant bloodline had been secretly plotting against the southwest desolate region. Who are you? An icy cold will suddenly transmit it out from the black sea water. This was the will of the abyss. Qin said, "You will soon know." He turned and left. Bang! The cold sea boiled. An even more extreme, cold aura erupted from within. "Stay behind!" The will of the abyss roared. But unfortunately, Qin current boundary was no longer the same as it was in the past. Shua, his figure moved. He arrived at the place where light and darkness converged and stepped out. In the next moment, endless light submerged Qin figure. Chapter 1796. A warm sun shined in the skies, and a gentle breeze blew across the ground. Qin was like a shadow that appeared out of thin air. He took a deep breath and then exhaled, a smile on his face. This could be called the taste of home. But in the end, he was no longer a youth. He immediately suppressed the emotions in his heart. He looked up at the great sun and lightly said, "The will of the abyss wants me to stay behind. What about you?" The great sun was silent, but a figure walked out from within. His features were blurry, but he released an incomparably powerful aura. However, this aura was restrained as it faced Qin. It didn't reveal any aggressive momentum at all. "I respect your choice." Qin eyebrows shot up. "You recognize me?" "Of course." Vast Yang's smiled, not concealing this at all. He said, "Qin, I noticed your existence many years ago. But in order to avoid unnecessary misunderstandings, I have always maintained my silence." Qin had no expression. "I might not believe what you say." The vast Yang said, "I never thought I would be able to make you believe me." After a brief pause, he said, "Now, no matter what you want to do, I will help you. This is my sincerity." Qin narrowed his eyes. "No matter what?" "Yes. Even if I want to become the master of the southwest desolate region." Qin asked why. In this world, there was no love or hate for no reason. And today was the first time he and the vast Yang had met. After a brief silence, the vast Yang said, "I hope that one day in the future, when you have enough strength, you can help me obtain a true new life." Qin said, "A new life? A long-lived species, eternal realm." Qin frowned. "You are the will of the world. It is incomplete, in a severely damaged state. It even affects my operations. Cracks have already appeared, and it will eventually collapse. If I want to live, I can only make changes. But with just myself, I cannot do this." The vast Yang was honest. But towards this honesty, Qin maintained a wait-and-see attitude. "Since you have already noticed me, then you should know that a long time ago, you might have made a better choice." The vast Yang fell into a long silence once more. "I know, but I don't dare." He looked at Qin. "Towards you, I chose to watch and wait. I didn't take the initiative to attack, nor did I make any impulsive decisions, all the way until today." Qin said, "What are you afraid of?" The vast sun shook his head. "I do not know, but my intuition tells me that if I attack you, the consequences will not be as I imagine them to be." Qin smiled. "Then you probably missed an excellent opportunity." If he said he missed it, then he really missed it. Not to mention that he now had many powerful backers behind him. Just as cultivation alone was enough for him to not fear the vast Yang will. So was the will of the abyss. This was the crux of why he could now face the will of vast Yang and speak with confidence and composure. In fact, he did not even need to make a move. He could just throw out by Fei Fei, and that would be enough to keep the vast Yang busy for a while. After all, he had just eaten the phoenix, so it wouldn't be too much to ask her to contribute. The vast sun will set meaningfully, or perhaps it is because I have avoided a great calamity and am able to usher in a brand new future. Qin nodded. Indeed, his eyes were calm as he said, "Next, you can show me your sincerity. After all, you can't just rely on your mouth." "Sure." The vast Yang nodded. Shua. Qin Yu's figure vanished. In the next moment, he appeared in a vast expanse of darkness. This place could also be called a void boundary. But this void boundary only existed within the southwest desolate region. After it was shattered, it had produced countless fragments, leaving behind a blank space. In front of him was Qin Yu's divine kingdom. From here, he could even feel the cheers of the divine kingdom. The power of faith tumbled about. This was because they could feel the arrival of a ruler. At this moment, in the small world that had become Qin Yu's divine kingdom, strange phenomena occurred one after another. Auspicious clouds appeared in the skies, condensing into golden lotuses. Giant phantoms appeared, constantly kowtowing towards the heavens. Countless believers stared with wide eyes at this scene. On an incomparably massive altar, a priest raised the scepter in his hand and respectfully prostrated himself on the ground, tears streaming down his face. "It's the Paragon. Our supreme Paragon has returned." Below, trillions of believers cheered and chanted. The power of faith boiled over. In the next moment, the vast Yang appeared beside Qin Yu. As it looked at this scene, a deep emotion appeared in its eyes. Qin Yu lifted a hand and pointed. "This is my divine kingdom. Now, I will use it as a seed to open the road to controlling the southwest desolate region." He wanted to connect the divine kingdom to the great Qin so that the southwest desolate region and the great Qin could fuse together to a certain degree. Like this, the great Qin could rapidly transform and truly become a real world, possessing the qualifications to replace it as soon as possible. After all, Emperor Qin wouldn't give Qin Yu the chance to peacefully develop. "I'll help you." The vast Yang lifted a hand, and the divine kingdom was instantly stripped away from the vast Yang world. He released his control over this small world on his own initiative and gifted it to Qin Yu. Qin Yu's eyes flashed. "Good." He flicked his sleeves, and a vortex appeared in the air. Within this vortex, one could faintly make out the phantoms of Nank stone and yellow Yangwood. This was a transformation that had occurred after the great Qin appeared. It had nearly fused into the divine kingdom, becoming a passageway that Qin Yu could open. This was similar to a heavenly passage world, but it was also different. With a thought, the divine kingdom erupted with light. The power of faith shot into the skies, condensing into a massive pillar of light that smashed into the vortex. In an instant, the great Qin was activated and the two sides formed a connection. And as the divine kingdom and the great Qin were connected, Qin Yu closed his eyes. At this moment, both great Qins underwent changes. Putting aside the great Qin of Nank Stone and Yellow Liang realm in the central desolate divine continent, there was the Xianyang city that suppressed all. Bang! The destiny of the nation shot into the skies, turning into 9 divine dragons that roared without end. The world was shaken. Within the imperial palace, Emperor Qin's complexion paled. His eyes were filled with monstrous killing intent. "Qin Yu! Qin Yu!" In his heart, he roared with rage. But besides anger and killing intent, Emperor Qin had to admit that in that moment, he had felt his heart race. This was a feeling of true danger, one that he had never felt before. Why was it like this? Could Qin Yu really be the person that shook the great Qin? But what qualifications did he have? So what if he could resist the wrath of the heavens? He was Emperor Qin, the highest person under the heavens. As long as he wanted to kill, he could do it at all costs. Apart from the heavens and earth, who could escape death? This was the true Emperor Qin. This was the reason why he could suppress the 4 sects and 4 families and make Niu Dingtian so angry, but he didn't dare to show it. He chased the ancient remnant people like a coward and fled in all directions. In this world, he was invincible. So what if he was the Tower Master? If not for his fear of the white jade capital behind him, Emperor Qin would have already ordered the great Qin's cavalry to trample over the Cloud Tower. In this world, no one knew what kind of Emperor Qin was. Sometimes, even he himself would feel an indescribable sense of fear when faced with such a thing. But now, Emperor Qin's heart was filled with anger and killing intent. Qin had to die. The divine kingdom returned to its tranquility. Qin opened his eyes and looked up, his expression solemn. Emperor Qin's killing intent. But he didn't panic, because he already knew that he would be completely opposed to the Qin Empire. The two sides couldn't coexist. There could only be one Qin Empire. Qin took a deep breath and slowly exhaled. The vast Yangwell said, "The person who wants to kill you is very strong." His tone was dignified. After a moment of hesitation, he continued, "At the very least, he gives me an incomparably terrifying feeling. Even standing beside you and feeling a trace of killing intent, I instinctively feel a deep sense of fear." Bai Feifei suddenly said, "He didn't lie to you. Emperor Qin is indeed strong. In fact, it can be said that no one knows just how strong he is, because Emperor Qin has never been defeated." Qin flicked his sleeves. Shua, Bai Feifei appeared. "Greetings, my lord." She looked at the vast Yangwell, an unkind expression on her face. It was clear she had recalled some unpleasant memories. The vast Yangwell was startled. He rejoiced in his decision. When Bai Feifei had hidden herself, he hadn't sensed her at all. But now that he was in the vast Yang world, he could naturally see through Bai Feifei's background. A long-lived species. Although the one in front of him wasn't complete, her status was still there. She was still perfect and flawless. Bai Feifei was the goal of the vast Yangwell. The reason he helped Qin was to abandon the shackles of the past and obtain a new life. Of course, it was a new life of longevity. "You said that Emperor Qin has never been defeated?" Qin frowned. "Are you referring to the current Emperor Qin?" Or Bai Feifei said, "Every reigning Emperor Qin, from the founding of the Qin Empire until now, has never been defeated." A look of emotion crossed her face. "Sometimes, I can't help but wonder just where Emperor Qin's bloodline came from. How could they have such a formidable bloodline that every successor is an invincible existence?" The vast Yangwell frowned, a thoughtful look on his face. "You are speaking of Emperor Qin. I have some memories of him, but they aren't complete. But if the one who revealed murderous intent just now was him, then Qin you really must be a bit more careful." Qin looked over. "What do you know?" The vast Yangwell shook his head. "Most of my memories are incomplete, but I faintly remember that Emperor Qin once killed a long-lived species." Bai Feifei coldly sneered. "How can I not know of this?" The vast Yangwell didn't respond to her provocation. "This world is very large, and it has existed for an even longer period of time. And I was once a part of it." He looked at Bai Feifei. "Although you're a long-lived species, you're not a true spirit of the heavens and earth. You were not born with the heavens and earth, so there are naturally some things that you do not know." Bai Feifei frowned. "You are saying that Emperor Qin has lived longer than me? How is that possible, the current Emperor Qin?" She suddenly paused. "You are saying that there is only one Emperor Qin, and from the founding of the Qin Empire until now, it has always been him alone." Her tone was filled with shock. As soon as she finished speaking, she denied it herself. "Impossible. Just how long has the Qin Empire existed? If he wasn't a long-lived species, how could he have resisted the weakening of the true Emperor's great Tao? Even if he obtained an incomplete eternal realm and cultivated into a so-called immortal, the word immortal is just empty words. Under the mighty river of time, his soul would scatter and he would be destroyed in body and soul. Emperor Qin is definitely not a long-lived species." Qin nodded. "He is indeed not a long-lived species." He paused for a moment and then continued. But it is not impossible for him to live to this day. Bai Feifei looked at him. Qin Yu didn't give an explanation. He couldn't say that this was all intuition. Of course, it wasn't necessarily just intuition. After he established a certain relationship with the Central Wasteland's great Qin, there was also a connection between him and Emperor Qin. If Emperor Qin was truly as he imagined, then the Tower Master of the 13th floor might not be as simple as he appeared. After all, a confrontation would only exist between opponents of similar strength. Qin Yu frowned, a dignified look on his face. The difficulty of replacing the Qin Empire was likely far greater than he imagined. But luckily, no matter what the reason was, the Tower Master temporarily stood on his side. And what he wanted was to become a long-lived species. But in truth, this didn't make sense. If the vast Yangwell hadn't lied, and Emperor Qin had once killed a long-lived species, then the Tower Master must have possessed a similar strength. Intuition told Qin Yu that there was an enormous secret hidden within. Chapter 1797. In the Peach Orchard. Qin Yu had been gone for a long time, but his status had become increasingly stable. He now had an aura that could suppress a world. This was because eldest senior brother Gao Zhuangzhuang, second senior brother by Zhang Yi, third senior brother by Feng, and seventh senior sister Thousand Faces had all broken through to the divine path during this period. One sect with 4 saints, unparalleled brilliance. Although the master of the Peach Garden had fallen, his disciples had used their actions to prove that his judgment was not wrong. Lei Xiaoyu led a very comfortable life. With a group of divine Dao senior brothers and sisters protecting her, she had nothing to worry about. The only vexing thing was that there had been an endless stream of people coming to propose marriage over the years. She did not like any of them. Senior apprentice Sister Thousand Faces had changed her face as usual today. Her face was filled with helplessness. Little fish, you can't do this. You can't always use junior apprentice Brother Qin as a benchmark. Otherwise, how many men in this world would you like? Let me tell you, senior sister, in this lifetime, a woman will eventually have to marry someone. Otherwise, the older she gets, the more lonely she will feel. 'Tis TSK, that long night, when you can't sleep alone. When you experience it, you'll know how important it is to have a man. This is my personal experience. If I knew it would be like this, I would have gotten together with your eldest senior brother long ago. Why would I have to suffer for so many years? Lei Xiaoyu blushed when she heard the tone of an experienced person. Senior sister, what nonsense are you talking about? Eldest senior brother doesn't even care. Thousand-faced assassin hugged her and raised his eyebrows. You're embarrassed just because of this? Little girl, you don't know what kind of person your eldest senior brother is. Don't think that he looks serious in front of you, but when night falls. Qin Yu felt that he really couldn't continue listening. Otherwise, the situation would be far too awkward. He coughed and walked out. Seventh senior apprentice sister, Xiaoyu, what are you two talking about? Lei Xiaoyu jerked her head up, eyes wide. Big brother Qin. Her face was filled with ecstasy. But very quickly, she was caught, unable to move. Senior sister, let me go. Big brother Qin is back. Lei Xiaoyu struggled. The thousand-faced assassin frowned and said coldly, Who are you? You dare to pretend to be little junior apprentice Brother Qin Yu? You really have guts. As she shouted angrily, she hurriedly sent a message. Soon, the sound of something tearing through the air resounded. The first to arrive was eldest senior brother Gao Zhuangzhuang, followed by Baizhan Yi and Bai Feng. As they saw Qin Yu, they all revealed looks of shock. But soon, vigilance filled their faces. Gao Zhuangzhuang said in a deep voice, No matter who you are, Peach Garden is not a place where you can do whatever you want. Qin Yu bitterly smiled. He had been misunderstood, but he could understand. After all, in the eyes of the people of the Peach Garden, his current realm was a level that they could not understand or even touch. It was as if a complete stranger was standing in front of them. This person's aura was unfathomable. Naturally, the people of the Peach Garden did not dare to believe it. Eldest senior apprentice brother, second senior apprentice brother, third senior apprentice brother. Qin Yu cupped his hands together. It really is me, I've returned. After some thought, he had an idea. Walala. The peach forest that filled the sky immediately swayed. Countless peach blossoms were swept up like falling snow. This was a connection that only the disciples of the peach garden could form with the peach forest here. Junior brother, it's really you. Gao Zhuang's eyes widened in surprise. Shua. Baijian Yuye's figure flashed and arrived before him. Little junior brother, you've returned. A fist smashed into his shoulder. Qin Yu quickly restrained his strength to avoid injuring him. He smiled. I've returned. Lei Xiaoyu rushed over, her eyes wide and her face flushed red. Big brother Qin. Qin Yu laughed and bowed in return. 8th senior apprentice sister. This form of address caused Lei Xiaoyu's face to redden even more. The disciples of the peach garden gathered together once more. Gao Zhuang said, Men, prepare a banquet. My junior brother has returned. He was all smiles. Qin Yu lifted a hand. There's no hurry. I want to go see senior apprentice Sister Peach Maiden and see how she is doing. The atmosphere froze. Across from him, Gao Zhuang's smile suddenly became forced. Qin Yu said in a low voice, Elder senior apprentice brother, what happened? Don't hide anything from me. Gao Zhuang took a deep breath. Junior brother, I am truly sorry. When you left in the past, you told me to take good care of junior apprentice Sister Peach Maiden. But something happened to her. Several junior apprentice brothers and I tried many times, but we were unable to stop her. Qin Yu took a deep breath. I will go see her. Shua. He took a step forwards and vanished from sight. Gao Zhuang was startled. He immediately said, I can no longer see through junior brother's current boundary. I hope that he has a way to save junior apprentice Sister Peach Maiden's situation. In the next moment, Qin Yu's figure appeared in Peach Maiden's dwelling. A group of Peach Garden servants were startled by his sudden appearance. Soon, some people recognized Qin Yu. Mr. Knight. Everyone hurriedly bowed. The servants who had just entered the Peach Garden were all shocked and curious. This was the first time they had seen a legendary character with their own eyes. The 9th Qin Yu of the Peach Garden was someone who had left for many years, but his legend was still passed down in the world. It was said that many years ago, he had a peak saint realm cultivation and was extremely powerful. Qin Yu nodded. He flicked his sleeves and opened the door. Soon, he entered the room and saw the unconscious Peach Maiden. He subconsciously shook. The reason for that was because Peach had been transferred into a giant crystal box. She looked like a faint shadow, as if a gust of wind would blow by and she would vanish. Qin Yu took a deep breath. He said, Vast Yang. Shua. Vast Yangs will appeared. Qin Yu, did you call me? Can you help me take a look at Peach Maiden's condition? Vast Yangs will glanced at him. She is in a divided soul state. Her soul is in tatters, and she is on the verge of collapse. She will soon vanish. Divided soul. Qin Yu looked up. You said that Peach Maiden is a divided soul? Vast Yangs said, That's right. If you don't believe me, you can call out the other one. With the eyesight of a long-lived being, he should be able to make a judgment. Qin Yu flicked his sleeves. Shua, Bai Fei appeared. He isn't wrong. She is indeed a divided soul. She looked at Peach Maiden several more times. But this divided soul doesn't seem ordinary. Vast Yangs lightly said, Of course it is. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been unable to see through it all these years. He looked at Qin Yu, a deep meaning in his eyes. Qin Yu said, What do you want to say? Vast Yangs hesitated. Qin Yu, I don't know Peach Maiden's true origins, but I can sense danger from her, so I don't dare to investigate her further. So, I can only give you a reminder regarding this matter. Qin Yu looked up. Vast Yangs said, The existence of the divided soul Peach Maiden must be extremely powerful. Perhaps you can find the answer from your own body. Find the answer from his own body? Qin Yu remained silent. Ning Ling and Yu Qi were the reincarnations of Peach Maiden's divided soul. He originally thought that by finding her and saving her, he would be able to find them. But now, Peach Maiden was actually only a divided soul. If so, then where was the real her? An extremely powerful existence, a woman. Qin took a deep breath, suppressing the tumbling and shaking of his heart. I understand. Sensing his gloomy mood, Vast Yang's will left on its own initiative. Bai Feifei thought for a moment. She said, My lord, this woman's aura has already been severed. It is only this crystal box that forcefully imprisons her aura. There is no longer any meaning in you guarding her. You might as well let her go. After speaking, she turned and left. She never imagined that Qin would be such an infatuated seed. When he had treated her before, his attitude had been cold and unyielding, without the slightest bit of tenderness for the fairer sex. Was she not white enough, or was her chest not high enough? In the room, Qin was silent for a long time. Then he lifted a hand and placed it on the crystal box. As he thought, Peach Maiden's vitality had already been severed and scattered. Now, she was only forcefully keeping her aura behind. He took a deep breath and slowly let it out. Then he pushed the crystal box open. Pa! With a light sound, like a bubble bursting, Peach Maiden's figure rapidly vanished from sight. Qin glanced at the empty crystal box. Then he stood up and left. Gao Zhuang and 100 Battles Yuya were already waiting in the courtyard. The others from Peach Garden had already left. Facing their expectant gazes, Qin shook his head. I cannot save Peach Maiden. Gao Zhuang and 100 Battles Yuya immediately revealed looks of disappointment. The atmosphere was stifling to the extreme. Senior Apprentice brothers, there is no need to be sad. Peach Maiden has indeed disappeared, but she might not have died. Perhaps there will be a day when she returns. Qin lifted a hand and rubbed his temples. I have confidence in this. No matter who she was, Qin would continue looking for her. He would never give up. Moreover, perhaps the answer was true and it had always been by his side. It was just that he didn't dare to confirm whether or not this answer was true. Junior Apprentice brother, we believe in you, Gao Zhuang said, squeezing out a smile. 100 Battles Yuya said, How about today, Junior Apprentice brother, you go rest first. Once you've recovered, we can drink together. Qin shook his head. There is no need. Moreover, I can't stay here for too long. I will have to return soon. He looked at his two senior apprentice brothers and said, This world is vast, far larger than we have ever seen. But it is also extremely dangerous. So dangerous that with Peach Garden's current strength, it is possible that it will be casually destroyed by others in the outside world. So, I will take a step first and explore this world. I will open up a new world and then bring Peach Garden out of here. 100 Battles Yuya frowned. Junior Apprentice brother, we are all at the Saint Realm. If you are in trouble, perhaps we can help you? Thank you, second senior apprentice brother. Qin hesitated for a moment and then flicked his sleeves. The phoenix's corpse appeared in front of him. Gao Zhuang and 100 Battles Yuya were frightened and immediately drew back. The two's eyes widened as they stubbornly stared at the phoenix's corpse. Even though it couldn't be any more dead, the aura it released was still terrifying beyond imagination. It was as if even a feather that had lost its luster could shatter the heavens and rend the earth. Junior Apprentice brother, this is, Qin said, the corpse of a phoenix. He lifted his hand and drew it back. And it is only one of my many enemies, one that isn't too remarkable. So, I appreciate the good intentions of my two senior apprentice brothers. In the future, there will be a day when you and I will fight side by side. 100 Battles Yuya bitterly smiled. Junior Apprentice brother, your words of comfort are quite lacking. A phoenix. This was a legendary divine creature. Yet, just like that, it had turned into a dried corpse. Moreover, looking at Qin expression, it seemed that killing this phoenix wasn't anything at all to him. He took a deep breath and said, Junior Apprentice brother, I want to know your current boundary. Gao Zhuang also revealed a curious expression. This was because the current Qin gave off an unfathomable feeling. Qin said, Above the Saint Realm is the Ruler Realm. Above the Ruler Realm is the Emperor Realm. And above the Emperor Realm is the Eternal Realm. And right now, I can be considered an Emperor Realm cultivator. These words weren't excessive. In fact, they could even be considered modest. Qin Yu wasn't an Emperor Realm cultivator, but the current him could kill a true Emperor. Emperor Realm. 100 battles Yu Ye's breathing quickened. So, above the Saint Realm, besides the Ruler Realm, there were so many realms. Indeed, the outside world was just as his junior apprentice brother had said. It was very, very large. He had been a frog in a well. I hope that one day in the future, I can also kill my way out of this world and experience the vastness of the world. Qin Yu smiled and nodded. I definitely will. That day, a banquet was held in the peach garden. The treasures of the wine cellar were brought out without hesitation. Qin Yu drank to his heart's content. He hadn't relaxed in a long time. He felt like he was a tightly wound clock that was being pushed at every moment. He didn't dare and couldn't stop for even the slightest bit. Now, in the peach garden of the vast young world, Qin Yu felt relaxed that he hadn't felt in a long time. Moreover, he also needed a vent. He needed to vent a kind of anger and confusion. Even as strong as he was today, he still felt as if he were shrouded in fog, unable to see anything clearly. Peach Girl was a divided soul. She was also a divided soul. If so, then what was the meaning of the master of the peach garden's hard work, perseverance, and even sacrifice of his life? His daughter wasn't his daughter. Or what was the meaning of Qin Yu's years of searching until he reached this day? Because whether it was Ning Ling, Yu Qi, or Peach Girl, they were only divided souls. It was even possible that they didn't remember anything that happened in the past. His heart was heavy and he wanted to get drunk. Qin Yu didn't refuse anyone. He deliberately controlled his cultivation and soon became drunk. Big brother Qin, it was Lei Xiaoyu. She had a worried look on her face. Qin Yu smiled. Don't worry, I'm happy. I'm fine. Lei Xiaoyu shook her head. She earnestly said, Big brother Qin, I know you aren't happy right now, but there are some things that we can't control. When people live in this world, it is impossible for everything to happen according to our wishes. Not all efforts and struggles will have meaning and results. But at the very least, as long as we work hard and struggle, then when we look back on it in the future, even if we end up with nothing, we won't feel disappointed. Qin Yu looked at her for a moment. Xiaoyu, you've really matured. He sat up straight, the drunkenness instantly sweeping away from his body. He slowly said, If we work hard and struggle, won't we feel disappointed? But the truth is that disappointment is inevitable. But at least we won't blame ourselves and only sigh in regret. Xiaoyu, thank you. This cup of wine is for you. Lei Xiaoyu waved her hand again and again. No need, no need. Qin Yu smiled and raised his cup. Lei Xiaoyu could only feel a bit embarrassed. She picked up her cup and drank it. She drained it in one gulp and put it down. Qin Yu stood up and cupped his hands together. Today, I have caused all senior apprentice brothers and senior apprentice sisters to worry. This is all my fault. I'm fine now, but I have already delayed my return for a great deal of time. I must return now. He filled his cup and raised it. But after today, if I want to return, it will be much easier. So, it won't be too long before we meet again. Everyone raised their cups and drained them. Shua, Qin Yu vanished from sight. Chapter 1798. Although Vastyong was good, it wasn't a place to stay for long. The desolate domain was where Qin Yu had to fight. However, he didn't immediately leave. Rather, he descended to another place, the ruler's ruins. In the past, Qin Yu had come into contact with people from the desolate domain here for the first time. He had fought with that race and the western desolate cultivators. Now that he thought about it, it was still vivid in his mind. But now, the seal of the past had been broken and Yao Tao, who should have been here, had disappeared. If Peach Girl was a divided soul, then where did she go after breaking the seal? As expected, she wasn't here anymore. This caused Qin Yu to lose his final clue to continue investigating this matter. He let out a breath and left. Vastyong. In the next moment, Qin Yu appeared where light and darkness confronted each other. The two were originally one, but after crossing an invisible boundary, their attributes began to change. Light and darkness were originally one. Qin Yu's eyes flashed. "You and the abyss," Vast Yangzil said. "Only one can live." It looked at Qin Yu. "I hope it is me." Qin Yu said, "I cannot guarantee you that, but if you can do what you say, I will do my best to help you." Vast Yangzil nodded. "That is enough." After a moment of silence, it said, "Qin Yu, there are far too many secrets hidden on your body. I hope you can determine just who you are as soon as possible." Qin Yu stepped forwards. "I also want to know." He came from that race and was Qin Chi-Chi's big brother. But he absolutely had more than that. Riddles appeared one after another. But Qin Yu felt that he was already very close to the final truth. He stepped into the abyss. Rumble, rumble. Endless darkness tumbled, carrying with it an extremely cold aura. Like a raging tide, it swept outwards. "I remember your aura. Where is she?" The abyss roared, its voice filled with heat and greed. Qin Yu looked up. Facing the incoming darkness, he lifted a hand and grasped out. Hum! The mountain and river sword appeared. He slashed forwards. As if the heavens and earth were being split apart, the endless darkness in front of him was instantly parted. What followed was the angry roar of the abyss. Qin Yu stepped forwards and entered the channel. Behind him, there was a massive commotion. The abyss had gone completely crazy. But no matter how angry it was, it could not enter the passage. Gradually, the movements behind him became smaller and smaller. He could feel a strange and yet familiar aura. That was the aura of Great Qin. As expected, as the deity nation merged with the Qin nation, his relationship with the Great Qin nation took another step forward. It was the end. Shua. Qin Yu returned to the small courtyard. The fisherman was waiting here, an anxious look on his face. As he saw Qin Yu come out, he hurriedly said, "Sect Master Qin, my clan's channels rotate randomly and they lead to different places. This time, because these channels involve the secrets of my clan, I took the liberty to ask." Qin Yu knew why he was so anxious. The southwestern desolate domain's broken world was a delicious piece of cake. The destroyed race wanted it, the western desolate domain wanted it, and even Great Qin wanted it. Otherwise, there wouldn't have been a catastrophe like the one in the southwest wasteland domain, where the entire wasteland domain was blasted apart. The ancient remnant bloodline had lost their status as the ruler of the world and had been chased by Great Qin. After becoming stray dogs, they desperately wanted to find a place to settle down. This was understandable. But unfortunately, their goal was the same as Qin Yu's, so there was nothing else to say. "I want to see some old friends." "Fisherman, could it be that you want to inquire about my background?" The fisherman's complexion changed. This saint has no such intentions. He couldn't continue talking about the topic just now. Otherwise, if he inquired about Qin Yu's background, how was that any different from seeking death? Moreover, although Qin Yu's expression was calm today, there was still a faint red circle hidden deep within his eyes. The fisherman felt a sense of danger from this and immediately shut up. He was very smart and had avoided a disaster for himself. Otherwise, Qin Yu wouldn't have minded using him today. This was because he wanted to become a true sovereign, putting aside all the mysteries around him. Only by being strong enough would he have the qualifications to seek answers. And since Little Meaty had already paved the road of cultivation for him, he would continue walking down it. Qin Yu turned and walked away. After 2 steps, he stopped and said, "Fisherman, you can convey my sex will to the ancient remnant bloodline. Great Qin will hunt you down and my sect will provide shelter to the ancient remnant bloodline. I will ensure your safety and give you a place to live. But the premise of all of this is that my sect must receive your allegiance." The fisherman's face shook. He stared at Qin Yu with wide eyes. "Although my body reeks of alcohol, I have not drunk too much. Everything you say is the truth. You can choose not to believe me, but this is my sect giving you another choice. The ancient remnant bloodline can wait a little longer and see clearly before making a decision. But I hope that this day will not be too late, otherwise this promise will be canceled or greatly reduced." Shua. Qin Yu vanished from sight. The fisherman fell silent, his face still filled with shock. Qin Yu's meaning was that he wanted to resist the great Qin and stand opposite of Emperor Qin to protect the ancient remnant bloodline from being hunted down. Even though he knew that Qin Yu was strong and that his performance was unfathomable, to the fisherman, it still sounded like the ravings of an idiot. Emperor Qin, this was Emperor Qin, an eternal and invincible existence. In this world, there was no one that could contend with Emperor Qin, not even the 13th floor. This was something that the ancient remnant bloodline knew better than anyone else. Thus, after the fisherman recovered from his shock, he could only temporarily suppress Qin Yu's words. But in his mind, he couldn't help but recall Qin Yu's expression when he left. Perhaps he should pass on this decision. After all, as Qin Yu said, the ancient remnant bloodline didn't need to make a decision right now. They could wait and see. If by any chance the fisherman shook his head, the possibility was far, far too low, almost negligible. And at this time, Qin Yu had already appeared as Great Qin Empire. In front of him was the imperial capital of Xianyang. With a flick of his sleeves, the phoenix corpse appeared. Then, Qin Yu raised his hand and grasped forwards. Space shattered and a channel appeared. In the next moment, a strange cry sounded out from within. A large chicken with a magnificent appearance and a mighty aura rolled out. Who? Let me tell you, my master is the highest person in the heavens and earth. Qin Yu, if you dare to touch me, my master will never let you off. No one can escape. Qin Yu sneered. He kicked the chicken. Stupid fool, stop trying to act cute here. Can't you feel the aura of a divine kingdom? With a single sentence, Qin Yu had exposed its act. The chicken overlord's heart ached. It thought that this evil star Qin Yu was becoming more and more direct with his words. He didn't even care about its feelings at all. He had gone too far. But on the surface, it didn't reveal any of this. It screamed and threw itself at Qin Yu. Ah, master, it's you. I missed you so much. Bai Feifei stood at the side, a strange expression on her face. Qin Yu flicked his sleeves and swept the chicken to the side. Enough, stop playing dumb. Otherwise, I'll hand you over to her. Bai Feifei stepped forward. She smiled. Little chicken, big sister will tell you that I'm the best at eating chickens. I can deal with any type of chicken. With a loud thud, the chicken overlord fell to the ground. In the next moment, it suddenly flipped over and flapped its wings as it rushed towards Qin Yu, screaming miserably, Master, save me. This woman is too fierce. Qin Yu lightly said, Watch your words. If Bai Feifei really wants to eat you, there's nothing I can do. Don't. Master, look at how fat I am. My entire body is covered in grease. I don't taste good at all. Master, what do you want me to do? Just tell me, and I will do as you say. I won't give you any discounts. Please don't try to scare me again. The chicken overlord was about to cry. Qin Yu smiled. You said it yourself. I didn't force you. The chicken overlord desperately nodded. It truly feared Bai Feifei like a tiger. This woman's aura was like that of a great demon. If he really fell into her hands, the best outcome would probably be death. With a flick of his sleeves, the phoenix corpse appeared. Qin Yu said, Eat it. From today onwards, you are the guardian god beast of the Great Qin Empire. Help me suppress the divine kingdom and gather the power of faith to condense the destiny of the Great Qin Empire. The phoenix corpse's appearance was a bit pitiful, but to the chicken overlord, it was still a massive temptation. It looked at the corpse and then at Qin Yu. It was speechless. You can't just say something like this? I will definitely agree on the spot. Why do you have to scare me like this? Qin Yu could sense the resentment in its eyes. He faintly smiled. I did on purpose. The chicken overlord. I will endure. I will continue to endure. I am an invincible ninja. Master, as long as you are happy. The chicken overlord opened its mouth and swallowed the phoenix corpse. Then, earth-shaking changes began to occur. Massive swathes of feathers fell off, and new ones grew out. They were even more beautiful, and there were raging flames burning on their surface. And its body also changed. It was no longer fat and round, but had become much more capable. To put it simply, its appearance had risen by several levels, as if it had become another phoenix. With a cry, the chicken overlord phoenix soared into the skies. In the skies, it couldn't help but show off its current healthy and beautiful appearance. Don't say it. This was because it really did seem like it. Within Xianyang City, cries of alarm rose up. Countless people stared with wide eyes, horror on their faces. He had no idea why the phoenix in the sky, which only existed in legends, would appear here. Bai Feifei licked her lips. It looks much more delicious now. The chicken overlord staggered, nearly falling down from the skies. Its face was in a distressed state. Qingyu took a step forwards. He said in a low voice, "The phoenix has descended. As the guardian god beast of the great Qin, it shall forever guard Xianyang City." Billowing waves of sound echoed through the heavens and earth. And at the same time, within the imperial palace, Daoist cloudy mist walked out. He bowed towards the phoenix and said, "This poor Taoist greets the guardian god beast." Behind him followed a youth. It was Chunxi. The heavy-faced Qin emperor suddenly revealed a happy expression. "Imperial scholar, is this my great Qin's guardian god beast?" Daoist cloudy mist stood up. He nodded. "That's right. A god beast is a gift from the heavens. It symbolizes the eternal stability of my great Qin. Chunxi, in the future, you will be in charge of negotiations with the guardian god beast phoenix." The youth, Chunxi, revealed a cautious expression. He took a deep breath and respectfully bowed. "Yes, honorable master." He didn't know why his luck had suddenly taken a turn for the better. He had been chosen by the dignified imperial scholar and taken in as a disciple. But without a doubt, this was a chance for him to ascend to the heavens in a single bound. Chunxi vowed to firmly grasp this opportunity and not miss it. The phoenix flew into the skies, circling around Xianyang City. Then it flapped its wings and landed atop Xianyang City, turning into a giant statue. Flames still burned around its body, illuminating the heavens and earth. Rumble, rumble. Qin, you could clearly feel the invisible power of faith gathering, gradually transforming into the destiny of the great Qin Empire. "Let's go." Qinyu turned and left. Bai Feifei looked at Xianyang City in front of her, her eyes deep. Shua. She vanished from sight. Swallow Mountain. True Sovereign Xiongji had been waiting here for a long time, but he still hadn't seen Qinyu arrive. This caused him to feel increasingly restless, as if something was about to happen. At this time, there was a knock on the door. True Sovereign Xiongji frowned. He flicked his sleeves and opened the door. "Enter." One-armed Zhang Xiashan stepped into the room. He respectfully bowed. "True Sovereign Xiongji, my sect master has sent you a message. He has something to do and asks you to wait elsewhere." True Sovereign Xiongji stood up. "What? Your sect master wants me to wait elsewhere? Where is he?" The tower master was already anxious from waiting, but Qinyu clearly had other matters to attend to. If he continued to delay, there would definitely be problems. Zhang Xiashan said, "The sect master said that the place he wants you to go to has something that the tower master wants. He's going to make preparations in advance to avoid any accidents." True Sovereign Xiongji relaxed. "Give me the location." Zhang Xiashan passed over a jade slip. True Sovereign Xiongji swept through it with his divine sense. His complexion changed, revealing a heavy expression. "Are you sure it is here?" Zhang Xiashan respectfully said, "Yes." True Sovereign Xiongji took a deep breath and gritted his teeth. "Good." He stood up, stepped out, and disappeared. In the next moment, True Sovereign Xiongji appeared outside the 13th tower. He bowed. "Tower Master, the heaven-splitting sword Sex Qin, you wants me to go to Xianyang City to wait for him. This subordinate does not dare to make a decision, so I came to ask the Tower Master." Several breaths later, the Tower Master's calm voice sounded out. "If he wants you to go, then go." True Sovereign Xiongji bowed. "Yes." He turned and left, a bitter smile on his face. Xianyang City. It was actually Xianyang City, the grand imperial capital of the great Qin. "Qinyu." Did he really not fear death? Or did he want to use this chance to drag the Tower Master down with him? To have the entire 13th Tower stand with him to resist the Great Qin? And more importantly, true sovereign Xiongji needed to be involved and even charge of the front. But the other side was Emperor Qin. To be enemies with him, just thinking about the consequences made one's heart tremble. But now he had no choice. Unless he disobeyed the Tower Master, then he would die. Qin Yu, what are you doing? Bai Fei, I want to become a true emperor. Then, my lord, you have to kill at least 2 more true emperors and take their daos for your own. Emperor Qin is looking for me. So, you can't do anything in the desolate region. Where are you going? Realm Void. Qin Yu stood on the mountain peak. At this moment, he raised his hand and grasped, taking out the mountain river sword. Good. With a low shout, he slashed down. The sword fell silently. Space shattered, and a huge crack appeared. Swish, he stepped into it. Chapter 1799. The myriad worlds were scattered, and the empty space in between was the void. It was true nothingness, and only endless darkness and ice existed eternally. Suddenly, the darkness exploded, forming a powerful shockwave that spread in all directions. Qin Yu walked out, holding the mountain river sword, his expression calm. Swoosh Bai Fei appeared. Right now, her entire body was truly glowing white. In the darkness, a small circle of light was propped up. My lord, the desolate domain world has Emperor Qin. You cannot act, or you'll be discovered. We can only enter the void to find an opportunity. Although this is a place where life is extinct, there are still many possibilities after so many years. In my current state, I will release my aura as bait to attract them. Qin Yu nodded. All right. He stepped forward. Bai Fei said, the chances of finding anything in the outskirts of the void are very small. It is best if we can go a little deeper. My lord's god nation has already awakened and is imprinted in the desolate domain world. This is the coordinate for you. With this coordinate, we can go further without worrying about getting lost. But this does not mean that we can rest easy with the coordinate. My lord, you must still be careful. You must constantly feel the connection between yourself and the god nation. If it becomes too weak, you must retreat. Otherwise, it is still possible that you will fall into the depths of the void and be lost, unable to find your way back. Qin Yu's expression was calm. I understand. Bai Fei quietened down, floating beside Qin Yu. Her expression was not relaxed, because, even to the long-lived species, the void was not familiar with it. Moreover, this place was like the mouth of a giant beast. Over the years, who knew how many peerless experts have been swallowed? Even for the long-lived species, there were records of them never returning after entering the void realm. Their final outcome was hard to determine, but this did not affect the respect the latecomers had for the void. Because of this, Bai Fei had said all this to Qin Yu in one breath. His luck was not too good. After walking in the void for a long time, Qin Yu could clearly feel the connection between himself and the god nation weakening rapidly. Although it was still within the range of his senses, at this speed, the connection would soon be broken. However, until now, there had been no results. The void was silent. Qin Yu looked at Bai Fei, who had a helpless expression on her face. Your Excellency, you must believe me. Once the aura of a long-lived being spreads, it will be extremely tempting. This is especially true for powerful existences who are already in desperate straits. I can guarantee that as long as they catch a whiff of my scent, they will definitely rush over like crazy. To sum it up simply, his luck was too bad. Qin Yu frowned for a moment before composing himself. Then let's continue forwards. Bai Fei nodded, but she couldn't hide the worry on her face. It had to be known that Qin Yu's current status was that of the desolate region's world destiny spirit. In terms of luck, there should be no one in this world who was better than him. But now, Qin Yu seemed to be in a state where his luck wasn't good. This in itself was abnormal. For hours later, Qin Yu stopped. He did not speak, but Bai Feifei knew that this was his limit. If he continued forward, he would be in danger of losing his way. In truth, the fact that Qin Yu was able to arrive here had already surpassed her expectations. His connection with the Divine Kingdom was even stronger than she had expected. But that didn't change the result. Qin Yu thought for a moment. Bai Feifei thought for a moment, then said, "My lord, should we go around in a circle? Perhaps there will be a harvest." Qin Yu shook his head. "I have a feeling that going around in circles will only be a waste of time." He looked up into the depths of the void realm. "Let's continue forward." Bai Feifei said, "My lord, this is too risky. If there's an accident," Qin Yu said, "it's fine." He closed his eyes, and his thoughts stirred. In the distant, desolate region, within Qin Yu's divine kingdom in vast sun, all the believers could feel the will of the sovereign lord. The great priest was so excited that he knelt on the ground and kissed it, a fanatical expression on his face. "All believers, the sovereign lord needs our help. With our faith, he will be able to smoothly cross the endless space and time to descend into this world. Now is the time for us to show our pious faith to the sovereign lord. Let us ignite the entire divine kingdom and illuminate the coordinates of the sovereign lord's descent." Within the divine kingdom, all the believers knelt on the ground and began to loudly chant. Bang! At this moment, the divine kingdom was ignited. Shua! Qin Yu opened his eyes. Light flashed deep within them, as if invisible flames were burning. It was as if invisible flames were burning within them. "Let's go." He continued forwards. Bai Feifei clenched her teeth and followed. "My lord, is there a problem with your condition?" Qin Yu said, "There are gains and losses. There is a connection between me and the great Qin. Naturally, the great Qin can suppress my status as the world's spirit of destiny. In fact, it might even cause some negative effects on me." Bai Feifei's eyes widened. "In other words, my lord, your luck isn't too good?" Qin Yu nodded. "It's not a big problem. The further we go from the desolate region, the weaker the connection between my sect and the divine kingdom. But at the same time, the Qin Empire's suppression on me is constantly decreasing." A sharp light flashed in his eyes. "My sect's good luck is about to return." Just as his voice fell, rumble, 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 there was a heaven-shaking explosion in front of him. Darkness wildly tumbled and shook as a wild aura swept out. Bai Feifei revealed a happy expression. "It's here." Qin Yu looked up. He reached out and grasped forward. The mountain and river sword appeared. He could naturally feel how cautious Bai Feifei was towards the void realm. Although his current combat strength was formidable, he wouldn't be careless in the slightest. There was nothing wrong with being cautious. He saw it. At this time, a white-clothed man broke through the darkness and crazily rushed over. Shua! There was still some distance before he came to a sudden stop. He cupped his hands together and bowed. Seaside Realms Luo Guan greets fellow Taoist. His white clothes were spotless, and his face was handsome. There was a faint smile on his lips. Qin Yu had no expression. "Is there something you need?" Luo Guan nodded. "I hope that fellow Taoist can give this woman to me. I will be eternally grateful." Qin Yu shook his head. "She is one of mine." Bai Feifei's eyes brightened. She desperately nodded and loudly said, "That's right. I am one of my lord's people." After waiting for so long, these words had finally arrived. Luo Guan said, "In the chaotic sea, it will be difficult for you and me to escape. If I can obtain this woman, I will be able to make a breakthrough in my cultivation. I can swear that once I make a breakthrough, I will bring fellow Taoist with me. I ask that you." His words came to an abrupt halt. Luo Guan lifted a hand and grasped forward. "Give her to me." His white clothes rapidly became filthy and rotten, the surface mottled with blood. His youthful and handsome appearance also rapidly aged. His flesh and blood withered away, leaving behind only a layer of dried skin. Now that he opened his mouth and roared, his expression fierce and fierce, he looked like a demon that had escaped from hell. What he stared at wasn't just Bai Feifei, but also Qin Yu. Because he was hungry. It wasn't because of the desire for good food, but because his withered body was on the verge of extinction. He needed to replenish his vitality in order to continue living. Thus, Luo Guan wanted both of them. Hum! The mountain and river sword cried out. Without hesitation, it slashed down. Facing this seemingly normal Luo Guan, Qin Yu didn't relax at all. After being trapped in the chaotic sea for countless years, was it possible for such a person to maintain his previous state? Bang! With a heaven-shaking explosion, the demon-like Luo Guan was sent flying away by the sword. His clothes were torn apart, revealing a skinny and thin chest. There was a long wound there, but only a small amount of liquid seeped out. There wasn't the least bit of blood to be seen. Dong! Dong! Looking down, one could see through the wound and see the weak, beating heart in his chest. Luo Guan let out a beast-like roar. Not only was he not pushed back by the sword, but he charged forward again. Even though Qin Yu had displayed a battle prowess that far exceeded his realm, he was like a puppet, or perhaps he had lost his mind. He didn't fear death and didn't know pain. Qin Yu's expression was calm. The mountain and river sword continued to slash down, tearing open numerous wounds on Luo Guan's body. Finally, with another stab, Pu's chest was pierced. The demon-like Luo Guan's body was strung up by the sword, his eyes wide as he stared at Qin Yu. His dry and cracked lips moved, and he said with difficulty, "Thank you." In the beginning, he had indeed wanted to eat Qin Yu and capture by Fei Fei. But when Luo Guan realized that he was no match for Qin Yu, he didn't run, but chose to fight to the death. Because he had been lost in the Void Realm for countless years, and he didn't want to repeat those days. So what if he escaped? Rather than continue suffering, Luo Guan hoped that he could die at Qin Yu's hands. At least when he died, there would be someone by his side, and he wouldn't continue to be alone. Alone. Sometimes, it was even more terrifying than death. My name is Luo Guan. I come from Lin, Sea Realm. With these last words, his aura faded. Qin Yu said, "No need to thank me. I'll remember." Bang! The sun and moon vortex descended, swallowing Luo Guan's body. Qin Yu closed his eyes and sat down cross-legged. Bai Fei Fei shook her head, a pained look on her face. A dignified, true sovereign powerhouse had been forced to the point of seeking death. The Void Realm was truly terrifying. 2 hours later, Qin Yu opened his eyes. The sun and moon vortex had vanished. He frowned. Luo Guan's great Tao was already on the verge of collapse, and the power of the great Tao I obtained was much less than I imagined. If it's all like this, then I'll need to kill at least 3 true sovereigns to help me break through. Bai Fei Fei said, It's a bit troublesome, but if it's all like this, then I'll be safe." Qin Yu nodded. Let's continue. As his cultivation rose, his connection with the divine kingdom became stronger. He could continue exploring deeper into the Void Realm. In fact, he had already stepped into the range of the Sea of Chaos. Or, to be more precise, he had entered long ago. Otherwise, it would have been impossible for Luo Guan to be trapped within, unable to escape. The reason Qin Yu could still move about was because the existence of the divine kingdom provided him with an anchor point. So, in the end, it was a matter of strength. Then, with the other holder of the blazing sun fragment, with his strength, even the Sea of Chaos might not be able to trap him. What the enemy lacked was probably a clear set of coordinates. Thinking of this, Qin Yu's heart tightened. He subconsciously looked up in a certain direction. There was nothing but darkness there. But at this moment, Qin Yu could feel an intense threat. The other party was in that direction. Qin Yu subconsciously thought of this. Then, he was startled and quickly suppressed these thoughts. He couldn't think about it, since he could sense the other party's existence. Then if he switched positions, it was likely that the other party could sense him as well. Bai Fei Fei said, "My lord, what is it?" Qin Yu was silent. After waiting for several breaths of time and seeing that nothing strange happened, he relaxed. "It should be fine." Bai Fei Fei's complexion changed. "My lord, you sensed..." Qin Yu raised a hand to interrupt her. "Don't think about it. Don't say it." He took a deep breath. "Let's continue." Bai Fei Fei nodded silently, but her expression was extremely solemn. This was the other holder of the blazing sun fragment, and its strength was clearly far greater than Qin Yu's. Even though she had only been a bystander back then, she had only sensed a little bit of it and felt her heart skip a beat. Once the other party arrived, the consequences could be imagined. Far away in the void realm, Taoist Scarlet Firmament and Autumn silently led the way. They had already gone too far and were completely lost. They could only rely on luck to find their way back. In truth, this was not going well. The oppressive aura behind them was becoming stronger and stronger. They knew that this was the mysterious existence revealing its dissatisfaction. At this time, bang! The darkness exploded. Taoist Scarlet Firmament and Autumn were sent flying backwards. A terrifying strength directly destroyed their bodies. In the blink of an eye, all that was left were two empty skeletons. Their souls had almost shattered. The illusory existence's body trembled. At this moment, it suddenly looked up, its eyes erupting with divine light. It sensed the aura of the other holder of the fragment. The other party was also in the void realm. With a flick of its sleeves, the dying Taoist Scarlet Firmament and Autumn flew back. In the blink of an eye, their flesh and blood were restored. Even their clothes were restored. It was as if the river of time that had flowed through the two had suddenly flowed backwards. Grabbing the two, the illusory figure stepped out. The darkness exploded, forming raging waves that swept in all directions. The terrifying aura of power left one in despair. In the next moment, the illusory figure reappeared. Although it was still in the void realm, it had already crossed an endless distance. In its perception, the other party's mental projection had already disappeared. It was quite vigilant. Letting go of Taoist Scarlet Firmament and Autumn, it said in a low voice, "This place should be close to your original world. Now try your best to sense it. Don't disappoint me again." Taoist Scarlet Firmament and Autumn's expressions changed. They bowed and said, "Yes." The two sat down cross-legged. It was clear that this was an ultimatum. If they couldn't find their way back, they would die. No one wanted to die. In particular, they had already seen the road to immortality. After a moment, Scarlet Firmament and Autumn opened their eyes, joy on their faces. "Your Excellency, we can sense it. It's a bit unclear, but as long as we get a bit closer, we can determine the way back." The illusory figure laughed. "Good. Now you're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.